It's the Survivor Series!
We are proud to announce WrestleCopia brand and the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, which you can find over at www.wrestlecopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, WrestleCopia.com. You may have heard me mention the WrestleCopia brand in passing on a variety of our shows. You might be asking, what is WrestleCopia? Well, the name derives from the words wrestle, for wrestling, and copia, which is defined as having plenty, or an abundance of. It's abundance of wrestling history over at WrestleCopia.com as the podcast network continues to grow with a variety of podcasts. Everything from our show, The Wrestling Memory Grenade, where we take a trip down memory lane to wrestling history's past as we analyze and dissect complete years of wrestling history from your favorite promotions, to Monday Warfare, The Battles Within, an in-depth look and weekly breakdown of the entire Raw vs. Nitro war. TR Shocks the World, where host Tom Robinson makes his long-awaited return to the wrestling airwaves. Tom does everything from break down the current product to share inside stories and memories from years gone by. It's discretion advised as TR shocks the world with his strong opinions, hilarious impressions, and so much more. The WrestleCopia News Network is a special feature podcast. You can expect more late-breaking news, timely discussions, and tributes to the fallen legends on future episodes of WCNN. We've also got other podcasts being prepped for their debuts, including a territory-based show we like to call The Money and the Miles. There's an old saying in the world of professional wrestling that nothing in this business is real except the money made and the miles traveled. In this podcast, we discuss the territory era, with shows focusing on everything from show reviews to yearly breakdowns to episodes focusing on some of the rare, lesser-known territories and outlaw promotions of yesteryear. Stop on over to WrestleCopia.com for all the latest shows and follow us on Twitter at WrestleCopia. That's on Twitter at WrestleCopia for all the latest news and information on the podcast network.
It's the Survivor Series!
Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I am your host, Ray Russell, and we are now at episode number 54. We've got a lot to get into here today. Most importantly, it is the 1993 WWF Survivor Series watch-along. Yes, indeed, it is upon us, but also an extra special Virgil of the Week this week before we get going, plus the announcement of our next free prize giveaway. What are we giving away next? You'll find out in just a couple of minutes. And last but certainly not least, our next project here on the Grenade. We'll announce today, in fact, in just a few minutes, where the Grenade is heading next. What promotion, what year? It's only going to take a few minutes for you guys to find out. Only one more episode here in 1993 in the WWF after this. Next week, we'll be covering everything from post-Survivor Series. That's the final week of November all the way through the end of December here in 1993. It's been an unbelievable and informative ride here in an era I've attempted to avoid in the past and did a pretty good job at it. But with fresh eyes here in 2021, 2022, I found 1993 to be a million times better than I remembered it. And I'm not saying it was great by any means. And the first third of the year with Hulk Hogan was certainly a rough patch to make it through. But there's a lot of fresh new talent coming in here in 93. Lots of solid matches throughout the year if you know where to look. And hopefully after listening to the Grenade here in 1993 WWF, you guys now know where to look for those good matches. And before we get going, I must remind everyone you can always listen to the Wrestling Memory Grenade as part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com. And we're also available on all of your favorite podcast streaming apps from Apple, Spotify, Google Pod, Pocket Cast, so many more. We are everywhere, including the Facebook app here in the United States, and that's really been doing some big numbers lately, so I want to thank all of our listeners over there on Facebook. Again, that's facebook.com/wrestlinggrenade. You can listen to our RSS feed there as well. And let us not forget the WrestleCopia brand, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, looking for a new co-host. WrestleCopia Podcast Network looking for new co-hosts for shows like the Wrestling Memory Grenade and Monday Warfare, The Battles Within. Full-time, part-time guest co-hosts from other shows. Come plug your shows here on WrestleCopia, and we'll have some fun conversation in the process. It's all about creating new content for the listeners out there, the wrestling fans, just like you and me. And in order to be a co-host, all you need is a microphone, the ability to use Skype Messenger, and a little bit of free time to record some shows. That's all it takes, guys. So if you're looking to get back into the podcast game or switch up shows, maybe you're on another podcast right now. Maybe you're getting a little burned out talking about the current product and you want to go back in time and have a little fun. Or maybe you've never had the opportunity in the past, but you know your wrestling history. You love the history of the business and you want in on this show. All you've got to do is contact me, Ray Russell, about becoming a potential full-time or even a part-time co-host here by emailing me at WrestleCopia@gmail.com. That's WrestleCopia@gmail.com, or DM me on Twitter at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade, home of the free prize giveaway. Also Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade, now also home of the free prize giveaway. Follow and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook for your chance to enter and win all future free prize giveaways. And now, as promised, our next big free prize giveaway announcement right here, right now. Our first of 2 drum rolls here today on the show. All right, guys, in our next free prize giveaway, we pride ourselves in being the Wrestling Memory Grenade. So let's pull that pin and really explode some pieces of wrestling history stretching 4 decades here in the business. And with those 4 decades come 4 prizes for 1 winner. 1 winner can win 4 wrestling magazines dating from the 1950s all the way through the 1980s. Just listen to what we have here for you. First up, it's the March-April 1952 Boxing and Wrestling magazine. Who will be the man to beat Jersey Joe Walcott? You'll have to find out here in the history books, guys. But on the cover is Joe Walcott and Rocky Marciano, plus wrestler Frederick Von Schacht. So a very rare 1952 Boxing and Wrestling magazine. And we're just getting started, guys. Fast forward to the 1960s, June 1966, Wrestling Review. Who on the cover? Who else but WWF champion, WWE Hall of Famer, the legendary Bruno Sammartino on the cover there of Wrestling Review, June 66. We move ahead again another decade, May of 1974, Wrestling Review again, this time on the cover, the very popular Mil Mascaras, the lead figure on the cover of the May 74 edition of Wrestling Review. And last but certainly not least, July 1984, Wrestling World magazine featuring Hulk Hogan on the cover. You might have heard of that guy. Hulk Hogan beating down Antonio Inoki on the cover of the magazine, plus features on Dick Slater, Jay Strongbow, Jack Briscoe, Carlos Colon, and Billy Jack. Before he was Billy Jack Haynes, he was just Billy Jack, like the movie. So there it is, guys, the next free prize giveaway. Tell your friends, retweet this, get it out there, because the more followers we get is the more prizes I can give away. So let's run it down again. 4 magazines for 1 winner. All you have to do is follow us at Wrestling Grenade on Twitter, or follow and like us on Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade, and you're automatically entered into the contest. And hell, follow us on both Twitter and Facebook for double your chance to win these 4 great magazines dating from the 1950s all the way into the mid-1980s. Again, the 1952 magazine, 1966, 1974, and 1984. 4 fun decades of professional wrestling. And all you have to do in order to win is follow us. And the winner of this contest will be announced in just a few weeks on our initial episode of our very next project here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys to go over to youtube.com/Wrestling Grenade, our very own YouTube channel over there. Once again, youtube.com/Wrestling Grenade. New fun and rare videos going up weekly on our YouTube channel. So be sure to go over there and subscribe. I want to thank everybody who's already went over there and done so. And by subscribing, you'll be alerted every time we add a new video. You won't miss a thing. And before we dive into our next project, before we dive into the Virgil of the Week, one last reminder, guys, please, please, please head on over, give it a try, patreon.com/WrestleCopia. More than a dozen tiers over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. And just this week, I've added some new things to our tiers. So listen closely, guys. Remember the $5 all access tier? It already got you all of my insanely detailed show notes, all of the Wrestling Memory Grenade, Monday Warfare, TR Shocks the World, unedited versions of the show, not just unedited versions of the show, but early access to mini episodes of our show before they drop live for everyone else to listen to. Not only did you get all of that, but you also got the Patreon exclusive watch-along series, where we go back in time and review many of the past WWF and WCW pay-per-views, Coliseum videos, Saturday night's main event, Clash of the Champions, so much more and more coming very soon there in our Patreon watch-along series. It's exclusive to the $5 all-access tier or any higher tier. Not only do you get all of that as part of the $5 all-access tier now, but I've went back in time, guys. I've never been satisfied with some of our early episodes here of the Wrestling Memory Grenade. The sound quality just didn't match the quality of the show I wanted to give you, but unfortunately I was learning on the go. I was learning as I went as far as sound editing went and the new software I had installed. Well, I've had plenty of opportunity to learn that software by this point, as you guys might imagine. Between all of our shows on WrestleCopia, we've recorded well over 100 shows. And so I've started to go back in time to the early episodes of the Wrestling Memory Grenade and re-edit them from scratch, guys, which means not only is the sound quality better, the background sound, the microphone sound overall, not only is that better, but I've also added in segments that were initially edited out. And those remastered versions of the Wrestling Memory Grenade now also available as part of the All Access tier. $5 gets you all of that, guys. That's the show notes, early access to our shows, unedited versions of TR Shocks the World, the exclusive Patreon watch-along series, and yes, now remastered episodes of the Wrestling Memory Grenade featuring added content, bonus content that you didn't hear the first time around. To call all of this a steal for $5 would be an absolute understatement. And then once Patreon and PayPal and everyone take out their fees, we're honestly only netting about 75% of the proceeds. So think about that for a minute, guys. We're making just under $4 here for this all access tier, and we're giving you all of this quality content at such a small price. So subscribe now, give it a try. Episode number 1 of the Grenade, the new version, the remastered version, already up and part of the all access tier, guys. So head on over, once again, patreon.com/WrestleCopia. Give it a try. Subscribe now. You can cancel anytime. No commitment involved. And I think you'll be happy with what you get over there at Patreon. All right, and we're down to 2 more things before we get right into the watch along. And first, it's going to be, well, you guys know it by now. It's the Virgil of the Week. And this week, I told you I had a very special Virgil of the Week, and a big shout out to Howie D out there. One final shout out to Howie D this year, guys.
Hi, Howie.
Howie D really came into play for us, especially in the second half of 1993, sending us lots of West Coast face-to-face clips. Some very intriguing and fun clips that may have been lost in time had it not been for Howie D, great listener and contributor here to the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Well, Howie D recommended these next 2 little ditties as well. Howie from the Las Vegas area suggested I go back and listen to a couple of Virgil promos from post-WWF 1995 when Virgil competed for the NWC, the National Wrestling Conference, out in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, old Virg had found himself in a feud with a clan member of sorts, if you will, by the name of The Thug. And you can only imagine, well, you don't have to imagine, because here they are 2 promos from Virgil this week, talking about the Ku Klux Klan, talking about this racist thug character. Well, you don't have to wait any longer. I'd say you have to see it to believe it. You'd have to hear it to believe it. Well, believe this. Here it is. Promo number 1 goes back to September 2nd, 1995. Here's Virgil.
Wild Bill back here with NWC Slam. One of the most popular athletes here in the NWC is the man that just won $10,000 in a battle royal. Virgil, come on in. October 7th, my man, you've got a date with the Thug. Saturday night. What are you going to do, brother?
Well, check this out. October 7th, Thug, don't you have no dates, don't get suspended, don't get no traffic tickets, don't end up in jail nowhere. If you end up in jail, I'll come down and bail you out, because October 7th, I'm going to put this size 11 so deep up your behind, when I pull it out, you know what's going to be smelling like. I'm going to beat you, man, from one side of the ring to the other side of the ring. You want to be racist, man? You want to talk about these good people? Don't talk about them. Be racist with me. Let's make this personal, one-on-one, me and you, Thug, okay? It's not racist, it's not black, it's not white, it's two men going at it. I'm gonna jump right down your throat and I'm gonna snatch your heart out, I'm gonna eat it right in front of you.
Wrestling fans, October 7th, Saturday night, the brawl that's going to end them all here in the NWC.
Wow, so much to touch on there from Virgil. Hey, if you get a traffic ticket, if you find yourself in jail, I'll come down and bail you out. That's how bad I want your ass, Thug. Virgil going to be all over the Thug's anatomy as well, from sticking his foot so far up his ass, his boot's going to smell like Thug's shit. I don't know why you would do that, Virgil. And then he's going to rip his heart out and eat it right in front of him. Virgil, very graphic here in this promo. Virgil also encouraging the Thug, hey man, you want to be racist? Don't be racist with the other good people. Just be racist with me. And then just moments later says, this isn't a racist thing. It's not a black or a white thing. It's a wrestling thing, basically. It's a me versus you thing. So Virgil contradicting himself as usual. I love that he is freely open to say whatever he wants here in the NWC. And that leads to another promo, which we're going to get to in just a minute. I did want to bring up this Thug character was actually a local talent, if you want to call him that. Loosely, I throw out that term talent, by the way. I've seen the Thug wrestle. But the Thug eventually morphs into Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who arrives on the scene here in the NWC in a Ku Klux Klan mask and a hood of the KKK, only to be unmasked, obviously, and Virgil being hanged by Jim the Anvil Neidhart in a Ku Klux Klan hood. I can't make this shit up here. And this is 1995, guys. I have no idea what we're doing. But here we go. I'm setting the stage. Remember, Virgil said he was wrestling the Thug on October 7th. Well, I believe that turned out to be Jim the Anvil Neidhart, if I'm not mistaken. However, we're going to hear from Virgil again here. This particular episode of NWC Slam took place the following day, October 8th, 1995. Here's another Virgil promo.
One of the most popular wrestlers here in the NWC is the man that just won $10,000 in a battle royal. Come on in, Virgil. You're in a heated dispute right now with a Thug, the man that says he hates all black people. I don't know about that, but...
Well, Thug, I'm going to tell you, so I hope you got your TV on. I don't care if you hate black people, white people, red people, green people. There's only one type of people, and that's a person, man. Okay? Let's make this personal, man. Forget all the other people. Just me and you. You hate me then, okay? I'm going to follow you around till you fall off the earth. You can dress up a Ku Klux Klan. You can dress up like Martin Luther King. You can dress up like anything you want, brother. I'm going to gun you down. Because this morning, I was going to hit the speed bag thinking about your face. Thug, thug, thug. Boom! I dropped that right, and Eddie FEUD said, good right, man. You should be fighting Riddick Bowe. I turned around and said, man, I got this punk running around saying he want to jump on me. I'm a street fighter. So he said, I'm helping brush you up a little bit on your street fighting. So, Thug, if you want to run with me, I run with the wolves, man. So come on, anytime you want to do it, let's get down and do it. Forget all the people, me and you, man.
Mike Tyson, watch out. But Thug, you especially better watch out, because Virgil's coming right at you, brother.
Mike Tyson and apparently Riddick Bowe, watch out. Virgil coming to gun the Thug down. I can't believe he said that here. Actually, I can. It's Virgil. And just think about this for a minute. Virgil, in between the WWF run and becoming an NWO member in 1996, this is what he was doing. And I can't help but think if we had this Virgil in the WCW, maybe he would have gotten over. And this announcer here, the Thug, who claims he hates all black people. Unbelievable. Virgil once again trying to bring the world together. This isn't about black people, white people, green people. This is about one type of people, a person. And it's going to be personal, says Virgil. Oh, Virg, you never let us down here on the Grenade. And sad to say, because we're closing up shop here with 1993 in the WWF next week, it will also be our final Virgil of the week next week, at least for the time being. Who knows, maybe down the line somewhere we can bring it back. But for now, next week marks the end of Virgil of the week. And of course, we've heard a ton from Virgil in the past. We've even heard from Curly Bill back on our October 93 episode of The Grenade. But next week, I have 3 special promos in store for you. First, Like I said, we've heard from Virgil, we've heard from Curly Bill. Well, now next week we're going to hear 2 promos from Vince of the NWO. We haven't heard from that side of Virgil just yet. And also, next week, I promise you 1 good Virgil promo. You heard me right, a good Virgil promo. I shit you not. When did this air? Well, you'll just have to wait and see what I'm referring to next week. 1 good Virgil promo to close out the year here in 1993 in the WWF. And 2 really fun Vincent promos with Mean Gene Okerlund, who only exacerbates the situation, as you can imagine. All right, guys, so that was this week's Virgil of the Week. But remember, next week, our final Virgil of the Week on the way. So stay tuned for next week, episode 55, December 1993 in the WWF. But before we get there, I promised you this week, before the Survivor Series watch-along, just a couple minutes away, I promise. But right now, I promised you also that I'd be announcing the next project here for the Wrestling Memory Grenade. We kicked things off with 1989 and the NWA. What a fun time that was. All of the pay-per-views, Clash of the Champions, Flair and Steamboat, Flair and Funk, the rise of Sting, the rise of Luger, the formation of the Steiners. We saw so much there. 1989 and the NWA. Then we moved on to 1993 here in the World Wrestling Federation. We said goodbye to Ric Flair's run here in the WWF. We saw the brief return of Hulkamania and that harebrained idea, brother, to win the WWF title one last time. But we also saw the arrival of some of the players in 1989 NWA over here in the WWF. We saw the arrival of the Steiner brothers, who have won and already lost the tag team titles. We also saw the arrival of Lex Luger. First the Narcissist, now he's made in the USA. And as you guys know, I've had a lot of fun covering the Matt Bourne version of Doink the Clown all year long. And of course, the epic feud between Bret Hart and Jerry the King Lawler, which right now is unfortunately on hiatus due to Lawler's legal situation. They will rekindle their feud and finish it in 1995. But there's just been so much fun here, from the Quebecers to Johnny Polo to the 1-2-3 Kid arriving, Marty Jannetty's umpteenth return to the company and winning the Intercontinental title on Raw. And let us not forget manager extraordinaire Jim Cornette has arrived here in the World Wrestling Federation. And unfortunately, on our next episode, we will say goodbye to Bobby the Brain Heenan here in 1993. But have no fear, guys, because it's time to announce our next project. Where will the grenade be heading next following 1993 in the WWF? Drum roll, please. And our next stop here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade, we go back in time, back beyond 1993, back beyond 1989. We go all the way back to 1987, 35 years ago. Wow, I feel so old. But we are going back to 1987, and we're sticking right here in the World Wrestling Federation. Yes, we're just about to conclude one of the worst years financially here for the WWF, but now we're going to head back to 1987, one of their biggest years in the company, including the inception of the Survivor Series pay-per-view, and depending on who you ask, approximately 93,000 fans inside the Pontiac Silverdome for WrestleMania 3. I can't wait for those watch-alongs, plus some other fun watch-alongs involving Saturday night's main events, maybe some house shows. The Garden, Spectrum, Boston Garden, who knows what we'll do there in 1987, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be a fun ride as we relive the Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant feud. Roddy Piper is going to bid farewell for a couple years to the world of professional wrestling, but not before he has it out with the adorable Adrian Adonis. We will see the inception of 2 new tag teams, both of them involving Rick Martel, first with Tom Zink as the Can-Am Connection, then later on Tito Santana and Strike Force. But those aren't the only new teams. In 1987, right out of the gate, January of 87, we're going to see the debut of Demolition, Axe, and Smash, though they may not look exactly as you remember them. Plus, the WWF will borrow a page out of Stampede Wrestling and create their own heel referee. Dangerous Danny Davis will step into the ring. We'll see all of that and so much more. Plus, hey, Bobby Heenan right back in our lives here. He's leaving in December of 93. Well, he's right there in the forefront of everything here. In 1987 WWF, looking forward to an entire year of Bobby the Brain Heenan. So there it is, guys. Tell your friends right now, the Wrestling Memory Grenade in just a few weeks. We will be kicking our next project off, 1987, in the World Wrestling Federation. It's going to be a fantastic, fun ride, I assure you. But it's finally time to get to what you came here for, or at least one of the things you came here for, and that is the Survivor Series 93 watch-along. Those here in the States can watch along on the Peacock. The international listeners out there, you guys can still follow along on the WWE Network. Lucky you. And I say that with sincerity. So for everyone who actually wants to watch along, now is the time. Jump on your Peacock network, jump on the WWE Network, queue up Survivor Series 1993. Very easy to find on the WWE Network. For those on Peacock, you guys know by now you have to go to the Survivor Series icon and click on Season 7, Episode 1, aka Survivor Series 93. Now, for those paying the $9.99 no ads version of Peacock, you guys can just watch right along as the show goes along. For those paying the $4.99 price tag on Peacock, you guys will likely have ads throughout the pay-per-view, and you'll have to pause this show and pick it back up on the other side of those ads if you want our show here to match up with the pay-per-view you are watching. And of course, as always, you don't necessarily need to watch along if you're just here for the ride to listen and learn and have a little fun in the process. That's what I'm here for. That's what this show's here for. So we're going to get going in just a minute. It's the Survivor Series 93 watch along. And get ready, guys. I hope you have it all queued up and ready to go. If not, hit pause here on the grenade and cue it up on your TV screen as we get ready to go. Survivor Series 93. It's the All-Americans against the Foreign Fanatics, the Hart family, now against Shawn Michaels and his Knights. The Rock and Roll Express will defend the Smoky Mountain Tag Team titles against the Heavenly Bodies. Team Razor takes on Team IRS, and four Doinks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four Doinks. How are they going to pull that one off against Bam Bam Bigelow Company? You'll just have to wait and see what that's about, guys. But here it is. It's the Survivor Series 93 watch-along in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Press play.
Hi, I'm Lex Luger, and this is my family. I'd like to meet my wife, Peggy.
Hi.
My son, Brian.
Hi.
And my daughter, Lauren. Thank you, honey. Here in America, Thanksgiving is a traditional family holiday.
And even though Thanksgiving is primarily a time to give thanks, it is also a time for a family like ours to be together.
So from my family to your family, all together now, have a happy Thanksgiving.
What a nice, cozy, warm welcome to the Survivor Series. Lex Luger and family. Yes, his legit family. Wishing you a happy Thanksgiving here on Thanksgiving Eve as we are now live in the Boston Garden, November 24th, 1993. It is the Survivor Series as we see this fellow in the ring singing the national anthem. Not quite sure who he is. He does remind me, he looks kind of like one of those guys that take the gold from Razor Ramon. But I also seem to remember a guy who looked something similar to him, I want to say in 1992, may have been 91, but I want to say 1992, conducting a couple of on-stage interviews here in the WWF. Now, I could be mistaken. I haven't seen that in a very long time. I think the guy's name was Joe something. Now, I could be very wrong. I have no idea who this guy is, but I'm just flashbacking through time, and he just seems kind of familiar. But very odd, but we do have the All-Americans getting ready to take on the Foreign Fanatics later. It is a American tradition. It is Thanksgiving. So here we are. We're singing the national anthem, entering the Survivor Series pay-per-view. We're going to cut back to the audio here when the show starts. We're going to listen to Bobby Heenan and Vince McMahon welcome us to the show.
To win the Survivor Series, you have to work together as a team. There are so many big egos back there, they won't even fit in the Boston Garden. Now, I have a right to have a big ego. Now, I don't think anybody back there. That's another thing I don't like about Boston.
Well, let me tell you, Bobby Heenan, right back over here we have Radio WWF. We have Gorilla Monsoon sitting right over here next to Jim Ross. And if you get out of line, I think the Gorilla could eliminate you.
Me get out of line?
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're getting ready for action right away. It's Team Razor Ramon taking on Team IRS, and look at this foursome here. It's IRS, Big Daddy Cool, well, the future Big Daddy Cool, Diesel, the model Rick Martel, and, wow, walking in the back, Adam Bomb, 300 pounds of Adam Bomb. And couldn't we have gotten the models theme here? I know IRS doesn't have theme music, and Adam Bomb's, well, no better than Diesel's semi-trucks revving up, but the model Rick Martel, established superstar. Ooh, look at those glasses. Lights blinking now on Adam Bomb's glasses. He's decked all out here for the pay-per-view. Is Adam Bomb, and I like his new neon yellow and green singlet as well. Adam Bomb looking a little different here tonight. Oh, IRS.
On the eve of Thanksgiving, you tax cheats better be thankful that this team of survivors isn't coming to your house to audit you.
Even on Thanksgiving, IRS can't let it go. As we get ready for their opponents headed to the ring one by one, and out first, here he is, the 1-2-3 Kid. And remember, this match initially scheduled to feature Razor Ramon teaming with the Kid, Marty Jannetty, and Mr. Perfect, but one of those names isn't here today. We already found out on the All-American version on Sky Sports, Bobby Heenan already made the announcement that the Macho Man would be replacing Kurt Hennig here on the pay-per-view. But here in America, here in the United States, we didn't know that. So I'm sitting down Thanksgiving Eve. I'm watching this pay-per-view as it unfolds live on TV, waiting to see Mr. Perfect make his way to the ring. But the bad guy has some bad news for Mr. Perfect fans anyway. And we're going to hear from Razor Ramon here in just a minute. But I also wanted to point out, remember at the beginning of the pay-per-view, we saw Lex Luger and his family wishing us a happy Thanksgiving. Well, there's a lot more to that story that meets the eye as well. And I'll share that with you guys throughout the match when we have some downtime throughout the next couple of matches here. And believe me, during the Hart family and Shawn and his Knights match, plenty to talk about that has nothing to do with that match because there's a lot of downtime. As the Intercontinental Champion Razor Ramon making his way out, and look at all of the former Intercontinental Champions, current guys going after the belt, all in this match. Savage, a former champion, Jannetty, a former champion, Razor Ramon, the IC champion. On the other side, you have Diesel, the bodyguard of the former IC champ. You have IRS gunning for the belt. The model was just in the finals with Razor Ramon for said belt. Well, you know what? Let's pick up the bad guy here. I know he's going to take over on the microphone and introduce Mr. Perfect's replacement. Let's see what Boston thinks of that.
Razor has the microphone.
What is Desi Arnaz going to do now? Everybody, listen to me.
And they are.
I'm going to tell you about my partner, Perfecto. He's such a perfect partner that he tag out before the match starts.
Uh-oh. What does that mean?
But have I got a treat for you?
I think Perfect's scared. I think that's what it is.
This guy, he got as much machismo as me.
That means another loser.
The one, the only.
Oh no! I called it! I called it!
You Randy Savage!
Here he comes, ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Macho Man Randy Savage!
champion, Intercontinental champion.
Razor Ramon laughing at the heel team as they've technically upgraded from Mr. Perfect to the Macho Man Randy Savage. And Bruce Pritchard has said this in the past. Anytime they've had to sub out a wrestler and replace them with another wrestler in a match, they do their due diligence. They do their best to look around and say, who is better? Who can we bring out that's even a better name than the one that's not going to be showing up here tonight, because you want to make the fans happy. Now, in some instances, you just can't find anyone. But in this instance, Mr. Perfect out and replaced by the Macho Man. Now, I was a gigantic Curt Hennig fan, so I was bummed. Even though Randy Savage was out here in replacement of Curt Hennig, I was still bummed. I was sitting there at home on my couch wondering, what the hell happened to Mr. Did he turn heel? Did he no-show because this is a heel turn? I could have only hoped. Of course, we know Hennig will come back at WrestleMania 10 very briefly before disappearing again. But Randy Savage, nonetheless, replacing Curt Hennig here. And it's kind of funny because we can go back just a year, to Survivor Series 1992, when Mr. Perfect aided Randy Savage by replacing the Ultimate Warrior in their match. And now here we are a year later, and it's Randy Savage replacing Mr. Perfect. And oddly enough, Razor Ramon, a participant in both of those matches. As we get things going, it looks like Rick Martel wants to start things out here. And I think it's Razor Ramon who starts it out for his team. Way to lead by example is the captain, Razor Ramon here, the Intercontinental Champion. Has no problem starting the match for his side. And I did point out, back on the UK Sky Sports, we talked about it on the last episode of The Grenade. It was the UK version of All American, where Bobby Heenan references that Mr. Perfect was stepping aside to allow the Macho Man to replace him in this match. And Heenan did a great job of selling and explaining why the Macho Man wanted in this match. And that was because, remember, Savage has been banned by Jack Tunney from broadcasting. And he's not scheduled to wrestle on this show. Therefore, Savage not really permitted into the building. And so by finding his way into this match, the Macho Man has found his way into the Boston Garden, which allows him to perhaps find Crush in the locker room before the night is over. And we will see a confrontation or two between those guys as the show goes on. And while Razor and Martel are feeling things out here, let's go back to the opening segment, shall we? Lex Luger at home, literally at his home with his family, his wife at the time, Bonnie, and his two kids. And what a nice family holiday message that was. What a happy-looking family there. And you'd think that was just one take. You sit down, Lex Luger reads the script, have a happy Thanksgiving. His wife chimes in, thank you from all of our family to all of your family, yada, yada, yada. One take, right? Well, there's kids, maybe a couple takes. What a perfect execution, you might have to say, what you just saw there. Well, if you go back to Bruce Pritchard's Something to Wrestle podcast, when he talks about this particular segment with Luger and his family, Bruce said they flew down to Luger's home in Atlanta the day before the show, and they spent almost, get this guys, 5 hours trying to film this 10, 15 second segment. And you notice the nice roaring fire in the background. Well, this is Atlanta, guys. And because of the roaring fire, Vince McMahon, the producers, wanted a fire in the background. Nice looking set up there. You got the fire going. It's the holiday season. Luger's there with his family. It all makes sense. It's a great visual. But in order to film this, they had to shut off the AC. And it was a hot day down there in Atlanta. And they had to shut off the AC due to audio problems. You don't want the sound of the air conditioner blowing in the background while you're trying to record this segment. And so they're having all these issues. Luger's son not necessarily wanting to cooperate at times. Luger yells at his son. His son begins to cry. He's got the puffy eyes. Luger's wife becomes upset with Lex because he's yelling at his son, so maybe they get into a little squabble. Lots of issues there in the Lex Luger family household. All of this takes 5 hours. At one point, I believe Bruce said he gets on the phone with Vince McMahon and tells him, we're not done filming yet. What do you mean, pal? All they had to do was say Happy Thanksgiving. Well, unfortunately, it takes a little longer than Vince or Bruce or probably anyone involved had anticipated. And apparently Luger got upset quite a bit here throughout trying to film this thing. And Pritchard also said that Luger was too wound up and it made for an extremely difficult process. He said what we saw here, was the very best take they could get out of 5 hours of footage. And if you fast forward to the kayfabe commentaries, Lex Luger does the 1993 WWF timeline. He talks about this, and he said it was a very uncomfortable time during this segment, as at the same time he was out partying and cheating on his wife out on the road, so he wasn't really excited to go back home to his family here to film this video. But that's where we're at here. That's the reality of Mr. USA, Mr. Made in the USA, Americana, is Lex Luger out cheating on his wife, partying at night, and yelling at his child for not participating properly in the videos there. So that's what we get, and what we see is a completely different thing there. Wishing you a happy Thanksgiving heading into the show. Adam Bomb sending the bad guy down right there on his butt. Razor Ramon, good sell job by Razor, looking like, oh, this guy's bigger than me. Adam Bomb, 300 plus pounds. But maybe he's got an inch or two on Razor as well. Bomb looking for a test of strength, and if I remember this spot correctly, Razor comes out of this move with a nice little counter. Is Bomb going to drop the bad guy down to his knees here? I think so. So let's look around the ring. Let's look at everybody involved in this match, and let's look at the history that they've had here in the Survivor Series. Now, we know guys like Adam Bomb, it's his first Survivor Series. Same with Diesel and the 1-2-3 Kid, but let's look at some of the other guys out here. IRS, we know 1991 participated in the 6-man elimination match to close that pay-per-view, teaming with the Disasters against the Boss Man and LOD. We've also got the model Rick Martel. Now, he goes all the way back in time to the original Survivor Series. Strikeforce participated in that one. Of course, Martel out in 88 due to the decapitation on the floor over the summer of 88. Martel back in 89, back in the swing of things in that opening match with the Enforcers, taking on the American Dream Team, if you will, babies. Martel moves on to the Visionaries, wiping out the Vipers. The Visionaries, of course, a little bit of Survivor Series trivia here for you guys. The Visionaries, the first entire team to survive the Survivor Series. They wouldn't be the last. In fact, we'll see a team, unfortunately, here before the night's over. The entire team survives. And Rick Martel continues on. 1990, of course, the Visionaries won. 1991. No Rick Martel in 91, I don't believe. But in 1992, Martel back with a match against Tatanka. And I'd like to forget about Survivor Series 92. The first year they try to move away. Uh-oh. We've got an issue here. Martel elbow drops Bomb and now shoves down Harvey Whippleman. Oh, Bomb just lays it in on the model. We've seen this recently on Superstars. The model taking on Razor Ramon. Harvey Whippleman comes to ringside. We accidentally see Harvey and Rick Martel collide. It led to the model being counted out. And of course, issues ensued there between Harvey and his wrestler Adam Bomb, and of course Rick Martel. And once again here we see Diesel and IRS trying to separate the two. Come on, guys, we've got to work together if we want to win this match. But I love that they play into this. We saw a little foreshadowing on Superstars a few weeks ago between these two, and it continued to make me believe that maybe we're seeing a slow babyface turn for the model Rick Martel. I was excited for that. The model character had grown a little stale. They hadn't had a lot to do with Rick Martel in recent years. And I would have been excited here to see what they could have done with the model as a babyface, but just not meant to be. Certainly not in the model characters. Oh man, we get the 300 plus pound Bomb in there with the much smaller 1-2-3 Kid. And Bomb gonna shoot the Kid into the rope. Let's see what happens here. Looking for the sunset flip. Bomb said just no and scoops the Kid up into the air, deadlifts him by his throat and tosses him. I'll tell you one thing, Adam Bomb, and he shines here tonight, if I remember correctly, out of everything he's done so far in the company. But Adam Bomb just looks amazing. What a look from Brian Clark there. But let's get back to some of these guys. Rick Martel, we talked about him. Whoa, man. Diesel just launched the 1-2-3 Kid a good 16, 18 feet across the ring, a good 9, 10 feet in the air with that Beal. Sean Waltman having no problem selling for his buddy, Kevin Nash. In fact, at this point, the Kid having no problem selling for anyone. And there it is, the gut wrench into the jackknife. But it's not his finisher yet, so it's just another move. But the Kid down from the move. Diesel now having his way with the 1-2-3 kick, booting him in the head. Is Team IRS certainly in control at this point? shooting the Kid. Oh, man, nasty big boot. Lots of high-impact moves here by Diesel on the Kid. The Kid looking for the tag, but he's in the wrong corner. And he may legitimately not know where he was after that big boot there. But the Kid looking for the hot tag. Diesel again looking for the side slam. Kid countering. Diesel taking a flying head scissors. How about that? And Kid finally gets out the big tag to the Macho Man coming in for the first time. Savage off the top. What's he going to do? Double axe handle? Yes, indeed. And the Macho Man, he's going to say hello to the entire heel team here as he nails Adam Bomb, knocks him off the apron, blasts IRS. Atomic drop IRS into Rick Martel. They go flying out of the ring. Savage now with having to take on two big men, two near 7-footers in Bomb and Diesel, whipping Bomb into Diesel. The two heels collide. It looks like Macho forgot a spot there. High knee to the back of, I forgot to eliminate Bomb from the ring. Aha. Savage goes back with the high knee, sends Bomb out of the ring, slams Diesel into, are you kidding me? Comes in with a double axe handle and a body slam. Is this it? The elbow drop off the top. There it is. Macho finisher 2, 3. Joey Morella makes, that's it. Big Daddy Cool, the future WWF champion, he's out. Just like that. A body slam and the Macho elbow. And I'm not questioning the elbow drop getting the win, but I am questioning how much ease was had there by the Macho Man in going into that pinfall finish. And I'm happy we didn't get a DQ or a count out or something cheap like that. But I got to tell you, in real time watching this, that killed the Diesel character for me. Now, I know they rebuild him and they do a hell of a job moving forward from the Royal Rumble. But at this point, for the next couple of months, growing up as a teen, when I'm watching the show, they killed Diesel flat there for me. He went out, got slammed like a job guy, and then Macho just drops the elbow without any fight from Diesel. But again, I'm happy we didn't get the DQ, the count-out nonsense that we get in a lot of these Survivor Series matches there. Savage gets the clean pin on Diesel, and it's now 4-3. And that was Diesel's first Survivor Series, but it won't be his last. In fact, Diesel's got some big Survivor Series coming in the very near future. But IRS now in with the Macho Man. These guys have been in the ring before. And he's going to take over on Savage. Let's look around and see what else we've got on the apron here. Some of the back history of some of these guys in the Survivor Series. We can go with Marty Jannetty. Go back to 1988, teaming with Shawn as part of that big epic 10-team match. And Jannetty and Shawn eliminated with the Brainbusters there. Back in 88, 1989, Marty part of the Warriors versus Heenan family match. Fast forward to 1990, Jannetty on the other side of the Vipers Visionaries from Rick Martel. So this is their second time going at it at the Survivor Series. Jannetty, of course, teaming with Shawn again in 91 as part of that awful elimination match. The Bushwhackers and the Rockers taking on the Beverly Brothers and the Nasty Boys. Of course, at that point, the Rockers were headed for a split. And Jannetty comes back in October, Halloween, in fact, of 1992 on Superstars. And here he is back on the Survivor Series pay-per-view in 1993. And Razor Ramon, his first Survivor Series last year as part of the tag team match at the Richfield Coliseum, Razor and Flair against Hennig and the Macho Man. And now Macho Man on the same team as the bad guy. Is IRS now in? Oh, Razor runs into a knee on the apron from the model, and IRS may take over here. Of course, Erwin looking for that Intercontinental title. He'll be fighting Razor Ramon in the upcoming weeks. Martel back in. Martel looking also for possibly another shot at the bad guy. Martel in the finals for the Intercontinental title. They both technically won the Battle Royal. The 20-man Battle Royal came down to Rick Martel and Razor Ramon. And then, of course, the following week, October 11th, it was the bad guy pinning the model to win the Intercontinental title. So the model feels like maybe he was shorted. He deserves another rematch. He was screwed accidentally by Harvey Wibbleman last time around. As Bomb now in, and he's going to take over on Razor Ramon. Sending the bad guy into the corner is Adam Bomb. And it looks like the heels have Razor in their corner and well in control of this one. And, this isn't even the first match on the show, believe it or not. In fact, there was a dark match featuring one of the Smoking Guns, for some odd reason. It was Billy Gunn defeating the Brooklyn Brawler with a sunset flip off the top rope. Match reportedly went 7 minutes, 46 seconds. Who timed it? I have no idea, but that's the results I have here. Billy Gunn over the Brooklyn Brawler, leaving Bart Gunn to just sit around backstage. You have to wonder, and I'm just guessing here. I'm theorizing here. Remember the match we saw between the Smoking Guns and Well Done on Raw several weeks ago now? The match that ended in a non-finish. It feels like this may have been a good time to bring that back. The Guns versus Well Done on the dark match here on the Survivor Series paper. I'm not saying that's what the plan was, but of course Well Done or Steven Dunn gets injured, and that leads us to Well Done leaving the company, and they don't return full-time until mid-July, I believe July of 1994. So that's the end of Well Done. So Harvey Whippleman back down to just Adam Bomb for the time being, but Quang right around the corner as Martel telegraphs that backdrop, and Razor Ramon finally finds himself possibly. Nope, it looked like he was going to finally make that hot tag, but the heel team staying right on top of the Intercontinental Champion. So you might ask, why Billy Gunn over the Brawler in a singles match? Well, some of the other guys that are currently contracted to the company are working under hoods tonight or doing other things. And it's even reported that at one point, Bart Gunn, the day of the show possibly even, was being discussed as a substitution as one of Shawn Michaels' Knights. Now that doesn't have Randy Savage back in with IRS, slams him down. Nope, drops him. A la Crush. Remember Crush dropped Savage across the barricade? Well, there's Savage drops IRS in the same fashion. Uh-oh, speaking of Crush, Savage slams IRS down, going to the top for the flying elbow, it would look like, but here comes Crush out to the ring, and the Macho Man sees him now. Rather than drop the elbow, Savage jumps down and out of the ring. Uh-oh, come on, Randy, let's get back to the ring. You got a match. And Razor, Jannetty, the Kid, all of them grabbing Savage, telling him to get back into the ring. Come on, we got a match here, Macho Man. But Savage can't take his eyes off of Crush. Remember, Savage says he's here for one reason, and that one reason is Crush, and that one reason is to survive the Survivor Series. Only Randy Savage could have one reasons to be here at the pay-per-view, as he's distracted clearly by Crush up on the middle rope, pointing down the aisleway. Crush getting nowhere near the Macho Man, though, out there just to run a distraction as IRS Schoolboy Savage from the middle rope down to the mat and gets the 3 count. IRS eliminates the Macho Man, which makes Diesel's elimination even worse. And Macho Man, he's done with the match, running backstage, sprinting backstage to go find Kona Crush. And the action will continue on. We're back to 3-on-3. Jannetty in the ring wanting one of the heels to get in with him. And we'll have to see who is man enough to get in the ring with Marty Jannetty here. It's going to be IRS continuing on, it looks like. And the Boston Garden's a sellout here. Remember, guys, they talked about this. Even Dave Meltzer admitted the Boston Garden selling out in less than 90 minutes. Now, when Vince tells the story, it's within an hour. Although I don't see the point of changing the story. It was 90 minutes is just as good as an hour, Vince. But the Boston Garden selling out, some 15,509 fans selling out in less than 90 minutes. And this is pre-internet, guys. There was no Ticketmaster online here to buy your seats. Jannetty now working over IRS in the middle of the ring, looking for a quick cover to no avail. And if I remember correctly, we'll pick up the crowd noise here before this show is over. But if I remember correctly, this is a pretty good crowd here in Boston for this show. In fact, the legendary Boston Garden. We know that the WWF even filmed shows, aired shows on the New England Sports Network, dating back from 1985 to 1989 from the Boston Garden. Legendary, of course, for the Celtics and so much more, including the WWF. But this would be the final wrestling program taking place here in the building before the Boston Garden is replaced. And oddly enough, it also marks the first pay-per-view ever to take place in the Boston Garden, which is very odd. You might think, really? Is that true? I thought when I heard them say that leading into this pay-per-view that they can't be right. That they've had to have done Boston before, but no. This, in fact, 1993 it took them to get to 1993 before we finally get a WWF pay-per-view in Boston Garden. Now, I know there's only 3-4 pay-per-views for the past several years here, the past 7, 8, 9 years here in the company. And now 5 here in 1993, including King of the Ring. So we don't have as many options throughout the year to visit as many cities with the pay-per-view circuit. So I get that. But it's nice that the WWF ran Boston Garden at least once here in pay-per-view. And Rick Martel goes hard into the shoulder post, allowing Jannetty to tag back in the bad guy. Martel wanting no part of Razor Ramon, crawling over. And tagging IRS, who just eats a roundhouse punch by Razor Ramon. And it looks like the bad guy, it looked like he was going to go for the back superplex there on IRS, but they think the wiser. Instead, Ramon going to work over the tax man and a choke slam on the tax mang. Looks like Razor Ramon says, that's it. It's time for the Razor's Edge. And could it be, can he pin IRS with the Razor? He could pin anybody with the Razor's Edge, but can he hit the Razor's Edge on IRS is the real question here. Bad guy looking for the finisher. Here it comes. Picks her one up over his head. Are the heels going to interfere? Looks like they're going to let this one go. There it is. Razor's Edge down on Mike Rotunda. 1, 2, 3. Wow, just like that. Razor Ramon scores the pin on team captain IRS. IRS gone. And now down to 3 on 2. As the heels now in a bit of trouble. Rick Martel, though, right away in to attack the bad guy and work him over in the corner. Razor having none of that. Razor right back on top. And Adam looks like a 2-on-1. Bomb and Martel looking to double team Razor, but now Jannetty and the Kid in, and it's going to take both of them to take on the big Adam Bomb. Referee now, Joey Morella over there with Jannetty in the corner, trying to get everybody out of the ring as Razor has Martel up now for the Razor's Edge, but IRS back inside. Briefcase to the face of Razor Ramon, and Morella completely misses it. He's too busy getting Jannetty and company out of the ring. And now Rick Martel, dazed and confused, kicks Razor Ramon out to the floor rather than pinning him because, well, we got to let the Intercontinental Champion save face. Morella making the count as Razor knocked out cold from the briefcase of IRS. Razor had Martel up and the Razor's Edge. Could have been the end for the model, but IRS in with the briefcase and boom. And yes, the bad guy has been counted out, unfortunately. So they give Razor the big pin before IRS gets his heat back, causing Razor to be eliminated, which very, very much bummed me out. Looked like Razor might have been bleeding from the lip there. May have taken a real shot from that briefcase. And we're back down. It's 2-on-2. The odds are even. You have to give the odds to the 300-pound Adam Bomb and, of course, the legendary model Rick Martel. Put that guy in the Hall of Fame, will you, Vince? Marty Jannetty on the other side. The underdogs indeed are Jannetty and the Kid here. But we'll see more tag teaming from these two in the very near future. So this is a good way to get them going, a good way to get them started. We've already seen Jannetty versus the Kid on 2 separate occasions. First ending in a count out, Jannetty getting the win over the Kid on All-American. Fast forward to an episode of Monday Night Raw. For whatever reason, nice cartwheel around the Kid by the model. And even 20 minutes into the match, the model showing, hey, I still got it, guys. But the last time we saw Jannetty and the Kid go at it one-on-one, Johnny Polo interfered and caused both men to be counted out before they got revenge on Johnny Polo. Now we know in the future it'll be the Kid and Jannetty over the Quebecers for the tag team titles. This upcoming January, if we won't make it there here on the Grenade, we're going to end things with December of 93. That's why I'm spoiling it for you. So the Kid and Jannetty, short-term tag team champions in January, as they defeat the Quebecers and lose the titles back at Madison Square Garden shortly before the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. And that's where the Kid actually gets hurt, at the MSG show. And it might have been during the actual New York City Rumble match. I can't remember right now. And the Kid tripping up Adam Bomb off the ropes. The Kid looking for something here. What are we going to get? Bomb shoots him in the air, takes the drop kick. Not a very good one. I'm sure maybe both. Well, Kid looking for the suicide dive. But Bomb catches him slams him down onto the padding outside like a sack of shit. Impressive is Adam Bomb as he rolls the Kid back into the ring. But the Kid will suffer his first of many injuries here. Is Bam looking for that slingshot clothesline? We haven't seen that in a few weeks. Adam Bam turns the Kid upside down. Very impressive match here. Adam Bam looking good here for once at the Survivor Series. Picked a good time. And Bam's been here since, I believe, May of 93. Of course, he just missed out on the King of the Ring. They'd already announced the matches for that pay-per-view. Completely missed the SummerSlam as well. But here we are. Survivor Series gives everyone a little more time to shine. And with the 4-on-4 fiasco throughout the entire night, it makes room for guys like Adam Bam, who are sometimes, the Kid with a schoolboy, may be overlooked. Just a 1 count there by the Kid on Adam Bam, but some educated feet and an enziguri to the face by the 1-2-3 Kid might allow the Kid to make the tag. Can he do it? We'll have to wait and see. He drops Adam Bam, he's got the Kid by the feet, not letting it happen. The heels seem to have the Kid's number here, doing some good double team work. Maybe not necessarily brain busters in style, but still, it's funny that it comes down to Marty and the Kid, who have had matches against one another in past. And on the other side, it's the Model and Adam Bam, who have had nothing but issues with one another in the past. Martel stomping away now, keeping the Kid down on the mat. We get a nice little heat spot here on the heat segment, I should say, on the 1-2-3 Kid is Rick Martel going to the corner. This may not be smart for the Model. He's showboating, and the Kid catches him coming off the top rope. Sorry for the phone in the background, guys. I can't do anything about it. My son went to school and left his phone on. I've told him about doing that. Jannetty in with the big hot tag, spinning elbow by Marty Jannetty, and he unloads on the Model Rick Martel. Jannetty sending the Martel into the corner, off the ropes. A knee lift by Marty Jannetty. Looks like the hot tag may be just what the doctor ordered here for the baby faces. Martel shot hard into the corner, and Jannetty looking for the pin. It would seem, no, looks like Jannetty going to continue on with the onslaught on the Model, taking him into the corner. The dazed and confused Rick Martel up against the ropes. It looks like the baby faces are now the ones in control. Marty Jannetty now finally looks for the cover. Doesn't hook the leg. Come on, Marty, you know better than that. And we got both baby faces looking for some double teaming here on the Model Rick Martel. And now it's the Kid with a spinning elbow. Jannetty with a normal elbow there. Not quite in sync yet are the babyface team. The Kid out of the corner. It's the old Briscoe roll. 2, 3. The Kid surprises Rick Martel with the sunset flip out of the corner and gets the win. Adam Bam comes over to the Kid, misses the hot tag. Jannetty slides in over the top. Sunset flip. Marty Jannetty pins Adam Bam. What the hell just happened here? In record time, 2 eliminations. Back to back. The Kid catches Martel out of the corner with a sunset flip. He crawls over trying to tag Jannetty. Adam Bam gets the Kid down on the mat, misses the blind tag to Marty Jannetty. And Jannetty scoops in or slides in over the top rope with a sunset flip. While Bam was down looking at the 1-2-3 Kid, he didn't realize Marty was the legal man. And Jannetty right over the top of Bam. Sunset flip will get the win. And Marty Jannetty and the 1-2-3 Kid survive the Survivor Series. Unbelievable. You would have never have expected to see Jannetty and the Kid, of all people, surviving. And we're going to go backstage. Todd Pettengill standing by with Shawn Michaels.
Star of the year, I'm standing here.
Take a look at me. I should be the superstar of the year.
Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, recently reinstated in the World Wrestling Federation after being stripped of the Intercontinental Championship and suspended. The former Intercontinental
Former? Take a look at this, pal. This is the Intercontinental Championship. I'm the undisputed Intercontinental Champion.
Be that as it may, Shawn Michaels back in the World Wrestling Federation, ready to do battle with the Hart Brothers, the Family Feud match. Shawn, I know there were some bad feelings between you and the Hitman from last year's WWF Survivor Series. Our special guest for the Family Feud match, Ray Combs from TV's The Family Feud, spoke with the Hart family earlier today. I'd like you to take a look at this footage.
Good evening, folks. I'm Ray Combs, and you may know me as the host of The Family Feud. I am standing in the locker room of the Hart Brothers with Bret, the Hitman Hart. How are you, Bret? I know you're ready for tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Folks, you've watched me solve many family feuds, but I got to tell you, I'm here for one reason. This has to be the family feud of the decade, as I understand it, and I'd just like to welcome you the day before Thanksgiving, but Shawn Michaels and his Knights have made some very personal remarks about your family. Is that correct?
Yes, they have. And you talk about heartache by the numbers, you're going to have heartache by the numbers. You got Keith, you got the Rocket, you got Bruce, myself, and you got the Big Tiger outside. I tell you, they made one big mistake when they started pulling my father's tail. My father has had it up to here with Shawn Michaels and the Knights. We don't care about the Knights. We don't care how big they are, how bad they are, what their reputations are. We don't care about the Knights. The masks are coming off, and Shawn Michaels, you're the one we want. The little mockery, that little stint that you did with my mother and father, you are going to pay big time.
You know, I'm getting goosebumps here. I mean, they talked about your mother and your father. That is the reason, ladies and gentlemen, as I understand it, that the four Hart brothers are going to wrestle for the first time together. Two brothers have come out of retirement. Anything that the family want to say on this day before Thanksgiving?
Well, you know, Ray, I know you've done a lot of family feuds in your time, but you've never seen a family feud like this one. Shawn Michaels, you and your Knights are going down because we're a very, very proud family, and we don't take kindly to what you said about my father, my mother, my brothers, and we're going to do justice in the ring tonight. Isn't that right, Keith?
Shawn Michaels, you just make sure you've got some medical people there because there's going to be one massive heart attack in that ring tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, all I can tell you is that I've been in Boston for nearly half a day, and half the people I've met have been members of the Hart family. Is everybody in town?
Everybody here.
Ready for action?
Ready for action.
The survey says this is a match you don't want to miss.
Oh, gee, can you imagine that? I upset the Hart family. I feel so bad about that. I got news for you. If I had a mom and dad that looked like that, I'd have put them 6 feet under a long time ago, whether those hearts were still pumping or not. And I got news for you. Bret the Hitman Hart, you and I have a history. I got a little something to settle with you anyway. After what happened to last Survivor Series, but you know something? Something's a little bit different. I still got my gold, and you got nothing. And what else do I have? I got 3 Knights that I handpicked myself. What's he got? He's got his little brother, the Rocket, Owen Hart. And he's got another brother, a fireman. I got something for the fireman. I'm so hot, you can't put me out. And the other guy, he's a substitute school teacher. I don't need anybody teaching me anything. I know it all. Hart family, you guys are going down where your mom and your dad ought to be. And if that old man sticks his nose in my business, I'm going to waffle him upside that head and somehow make him uglier than he already is.
Shawn Michaels ready to do battle in the Family Feud match. Let's send it back to ringside.
Hello, Boston!
All right, and back to ringside. It is Ray Combs in the ring, the host of the Family Feud. Ray Combs got his start on the Family Feud, replacing the original host, Richard Dawson, back in 1988. Combs took over, and while I do have memories of Richard Dawson as the host of the Family Feud, especially since watching the reruns on the Game Show Network in years gone by, but Ray Combs is the guy I grew up on Family Feud. I remember that very fondly, very vividly. Ray Combs hosting the Family Feud for something like at least 6 years. And here we go. He's introducing some of the Hart family ringside. There's Owen's wife, Martha, over there. That must be Oj in her lap. I believe that's Georgia Hart as well, if I'm not mistaken, with Martha there in the front row. And we see Helen there. Oh, here we go. A couple of the brothers, too. That's Ross and Wayne Hart. Wayne, whew, look at that hair. We got one of them looks exactly like Bret with a perm. The other one looks like a younger version of Stu Hart, if Stu was ever young. So we got some of the Hart family sitting ringside, and of course there she is, the matriarch of the Hart family, Miss Helen Hart, not from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but rather from New York, for those who didn't know. Met Stu and moved over to Canada, and boom, the Hart family was born. 12 kids did Stu and Helen Hart have. And the most popular of all will be Bret the Hitman Hart. We'll see him here with 3 of his other brothers, Keith, Bruce, and Owen. And we'll pick up Ray Combs here. Hey, they paid him to come in. I'm assuming they paid him to come in. Ray Combs was a wrestling fan, however. We'll touch a little more on Ray Combs throughout the match, but they paid him to come in. Let's hear him do some of his quote-unquote comedy bit.
Please, I'm going to ask that you let me get through this. I am here because family feuds are my business, and I'm here to be independent. Has Shawn Michaels crossed the line? Nah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
There are those in the wrestling business that believe that perhaps it has been youthful indiscretion on his part,
that perhaps because he is better than average looking, he might not be intelligent. I disregard this. Shawn Michaels was on my show. If you watch the Family Feud, here are real answers given by Shawn Michaels that will let you know his character.
Oh, don't embarrass him.
We surveyed 100 people, and the top 3 answers are on the board. Name a state with new in its name. Shawn Michaels said, I know, Nebraska. Good answer, Shawn, but it didn't make our survey. Please allow me to tell you this. For this is the words of the people here in Boston Gardens tonight.
Oh,
Before I bring our 2 teams to this arena, know this. One team is 4 brothers fighting for their family's honor.
They think.
The other, in the words of Shawn Michaels, are 3 of the best men he could hire. Can hired men defeat family honor? To be independent, please allow me to give you the words. I cannot judge who will win this match tonight, but I surveyed 100 people here in the Boston Gardens and asked them to give me a comment for what you think of the words that have been said by Shawn Michaels. Of the 100 people I surveyed, you said this about Shawn Michaels' mother. You said that Shawn Michaels' mother is so scary that when she walks through the woods, Bigfoot takes pictures of her. That's what you said. That's
well,
what the
a lot of
survey
comments,
said about Shawn Michaels' mother.
I don't think we need to get into mothers here.
You see the hoofs on Helen?
Before I bring in the
I beg your
team,
pardon?
You see the hoofs on Helen?
of the people that I surveyed,
The
100
feet?
people in the Boston Gardens,
One's about a 12, one's
said
about a
this
4.
about Shawn Michaels' father.
I'll be hitting, please.
They said that Shawn Michaels' father is so slow, it takes him 2 hours to watch 60 Minutes. That's what the survey said about Shawn Michaels' father.
And they don't even get 60 minutes in
And
Calgary.
now, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to say it's time to play the feud.
All right.
And here they come.
And here we go, guys. It's time to play the feud as Shawn Michaels makes his way to ringside with his version of the Knights. Of course, we know Jerry Lawler originally pegged to lead the Knights into battle here against the Hart family. Boy, we got about 30 minutes to talk about that. This match goes something like 31 minutes. So we got plenty of time. We're going to talk all about Jerry Lawler, everything that was going on between him and the Hart family before being replaced here by Shawn Michaels at, well, the 11th hour. As HBK makes his way to ringside, look at these Knights, Willie. Ooh, look at the Black Knight there. Double bicep pose. Somebody's on the gas. Luckily, he doesn't work full-time for the World Wrestling Federation, so he can get away with it here for one night only. See if you guys can figure out who these Knights really are. We've already talked about it in the past. Originally, supposedly, according to Terry Funk, he was supposed to be the Blue Knight. Now, we know it's accurate. Funk was supposed to be a Knight. Now, I don't know if this Blue Knight stretched out the Funker's gear, or if maybe Funk had the color wrong. Maybe Funk was going to be the Red Knight. Does it really matter? We know Funk, up until the day of the pay-per-view, maybe the day before, I'm not really sure, but Funk was scheduled to be one of the Knights here until he partied with Bret Hart. He hung out with Bret Hart all night. They were having drinks all night long, talking about the old times, talking about stories, having a good time. Were the Hitman and the Funker. But somewhere during that time, the Hitman decided to pass on some information, maybe explain to Terry Funk how the match was going to take place. According to urban legend, and maybe it's true, it was Pat Patterson who came up with this idea, but either way, it was Bret Hart who laid it out to the Funker, and that was that during this match, Pat Patterson supposedly had decided as the Knights would be defeated, they would be unmasked, so we would see who these Knights really were. Thank God that didn't happen. Talk about a fart in church. However, the idea was, according to Bret pitching it to Funk, was that as the Hart family coming down to ringside, there's Keith, we see Bruce now, was that the Funker was going to be eliminated by the sharpshooter and then be unmasked, exposed as Terry Funk submitting to the sharpshooter. Then all of a sudden, the next day, Terry Funk leaves his night costume folded up at the door. I believe it was a Bruce Pritchard hotel room door, with a note stating that his horse got sick and he had to go back to the Double Cross Ranch in Amarillo, Texas. That became a running joke every time the Funker would leave the company. He would just simply tell Vince, My horse was sick. And then when he would come back, Vince would ask him, how's your horse? And I guess you can do that when you're Terry Funk. Bret Hart rocking a questionable singlet here for this pay-per-view. Very different. No legs to this singlet, as it's almost like a singlet into a Speedo here for the Hitman, and it always stuck out to me. Of course, Bret rocking the neon pink, while his brother's more wearing the black. And here we go, Stu out last. They should have sent him out about an hour ago. He might have been to ringside by now. Not trying to mock the man, the legend, Stu Hart, wearing a Bruins jacket, making his way down to the ring, greeting some of the fans ringside, possibly some Hart family members, not really sure there. But very cool to see Stu acting as a manager of the match. This would have been so much more had Jerry Lawler still been part of this matchup. As Hart gives away his glasses to a fan ringside, and it looks like we're getting ready to go here. And Ray Combs, how about those yo mama and your daddy jokes? Talk about outdated. Those were pretty much outdated by 1993, at least those particular jokes. And here we go. It is Bret, Owen, Bruce, and Keith Hart. Bruce being the blonde, Keith being the man in the mustache. The Hart brothers taking on Shawn Michaels and the red, black, and blue Knight. There we see Ross and Wayne at ringside once again. And these guys played up really well. Bret Hart did a great job in the promo. The family doing a great job selling like they wanted Shawn Michaels. They want revenge for everything Shawn Michaels has said and done. Problem there is Shawn Michaels didn't say or do anything up until about a week ago at the Survivor Series Showdown, when Shawn returned to TV just in time to be part of Rio Rogers Roundup, baby, as they visited, quote-unquote, the house of Stu and Helen Hart. Of course, it was people dressed up in the George Washington mask was the man that was portraying Stu, wearing Hitman shades. Kind of funny, sitting there in the wheelchair, and then, of course, Helen Hart in another grotesque mask. But the funniest part of that entire segment was on the wall, there was a giant poster of Bret the Hitman Hart, and right next to it was a trading card taped up of Owen Hart. So we had a 8x10, maybe even bigger, poster of Bret Hart up on the wall, and then a small trading card of Owen Hart right next to him, as Rio Rogers is the first one to get over the line, Owen Hart being in the shadow of the Hitman. And that will continue to unfold here in this match, as it looks like, two of my favorites, Owen Hart and Shawn Michaels, going to start this one out. And a good call to get HBK in there first. The crowd has no idea who these Knights are, and at the time, neither did I. And Shawn taunting Bruce Hart on he wants one of the retired Hart brothers to get in the ring. Bruce Hart there, retired and now a school teacher, gets in the ring, and Bruce knows what he's doing. Don't be fooled. All of the Hart brothers very well versed and trained by Stu Hart in the wrestling business. All of the guys had wrestled in the ring at some time or another in their career. I believe Keith retired a little earlier than the rest of them. Keith went on to become a fireman, and Bruce would wrestle throughout most of the 80s. He was booker there for quite a while for Stampede Wrestling. Was Bruce teamed for a bit, too, with Flying Brian Pillman before Brian went over to the NWA. But at this point, Bruce pretty much semi-retired, if not fully retired from the business, but he still looks in pretty good shape here as the Hart brothers getting ready to take it to Shawn and his Knights. We're going to see how things go here and see if we see any rust here on Bruce or Keith. Now remember, they're more versed in the old-time ways of wrestling, so probably a lot more wrestling, and I mean mat wrestling from those guys, but Bruce Hart gets it. Very early on, Shawn off the ropes. Oh, Bruce out of the way, and Shawn nails the Black Knight right away with a big high knee. And now we see Keith coming in. And the retired Hart brothers taking it to HBK here, who still claims to be the Intercontinental Champion. But let's go back, and it was originally supposed to be Jerry Lawler. It all started back in the middle of June. Over 5 months ago, Jerry the King Lawler started his feud with Bret Hart when he attacked him at the end of the King of the Ring pay-per-view, and it escalated from there. No downtime in this storyline. No downtime in this feud. 5 months of heat between Jerry Lawler and the Hitman. Not only did Lawler get to shell out comments, derogatory comments toward Bret and the rest of his family every week on TV as part of Superstars, but we saw him invade Raw up in the balcony, the infamous invasion of Lawler on the microphone. Who gave him that microphone, by the way? Live mic as Lawler mocked Stu and Helen Hart while Bret was taking on Bam Bam Bigelow. near fall there from Keith Hart on HBK. But it went on. Of course, Lawler took out Owen Hart with a pile driver, humiliated him after the match as part of his Superstars match back in the summer. We fast forward to SummerSlam. Bret Hart was finally going to get revenge for himself and his mom, his dad, his whole entire family, as he was slated to take on the King. But the King came to SummerSlam on crutches, claiming of the old blue-haired lady and the car accident up in Michigan. So Lawler tried to get out of that match, replacing himself with Doink the Clown. But of course, Lawler interfered in that match, which led to Jack Tunney coming out and saying, hey, you're not injured. You're going to wrestle Bret the Hitman Hart. And Bret initially beats the King with the sharpshooter, but he refuses to release the hold. And the decision is reversed. The Lawler gets the win on disqualification and becomes the undisputed king of the World Wrestling Federation at SummerSlam. And it just continued from there, a downward spiral between the two men, between Hart and Lawler. And it was all going to culminate here at the Survivor Series. Bret bringing his family in, Owen, Keith, and Bruce, to take on Jerry Lawler. And, well, every king needs some knights. And these knights originally slated to be Terry Funk, as I've already mentioned. The Black Knight, ooh, nice bumps here from the Red Knight. I wonder why this Red Knight is so much more in tune in the ring here. We'll talk about that as the match goes on. But Owen Hart right on top of the Black Knight now. And we'll discuss the identity of all three of these guys here before the match is over, as the Hitman even finally gets in a shot here, letting his brothers do some of the early work in the match. But we know Terry Funk originally slated to be a Knight. We've heard rumors that Greg Valentine was coming in as one of the Knights. Now here, the Hammer, you can tell if one of these guys are Greg Valentine. Which one is it? It looks like the Hammer's let himself go as the Blue Knight finally tags into the match. Now, he doesn't look like all that much here, but we'll have to see if Greg Valentine can still go in the ring. Remember, he's only a year removed from the U.S. tag title run in WCW with Terry Taylor. And Valentine, I have to say, really picked up the pace in order to keep a job there while Bill Watts was in charge of WCW just a year ago. So the Hitman in with Greg the Hammer Valentine. These guys, no strangers to one another. They've even been in the ring together against each other before at the Survivor Series. As the Hart brothers now working over the Blue Knight. So we heard Valentine was likely going to be one of the Knights. We heard Funk was going to be one of the Knights. And initially, they had stuck Glenn Jacobs, the future Kane, in the Black Knight costume as part of some TV tapings to see how he worked out. But as Bruce Pritchard has said on his podcast, and as you might suspect, Glenn Jacobs here in 1993, too green, even here for the WWF Survivor Series as one of the Knights. So while he was discussed, it just wasn't meant to be, though Jacobs will return to the company in 1995 as Isaac Yankem, eventually the Diesel number 2, and of course, finally, that's gotta be Kane. But the Knights now have Bruce Hart in their corner, going to work him over. And we come down to the day of the show. Bruce Pritchard has said it still wasn't decided exactly who the Knights were going to be. Now, Glenn Jacobs was out as the Black Knight, so they went down to Memphis where they had found Jacobs, and they brought up Jeff Gaylord. They needed the powerhouse of the Knights, and that was Jeff Gaylord. For those who don't know, Gaylord's been around the business for quite a while at this point, at least I'd say 7 years at the very least. Jeff Gaylord worked for places like Mid-South and tons down in Memphis. In fact, he was working for Memphis at this point in time. So Jeff Gaylord, for those who don't know, look him up. Questionable man, but Gaylord here working as the Black Knight in this match. Now, we've already discussed Greg the Hammer Valentine, obviously the Blue Knight here. But you might say, hey, this Red Knight, he has something in him. He's delivering moves, nice, crisp, and clean. He's taking great bumps. He seems to be with it. His chemistry is great with some of these Hearts. Why is that? Well, the Red Knight, none other than Barry Horowitz. Yes, the current enhancement talent, Barry Horowitz with the company, possibly, arguably, I wouldn't even argue it, honestly, probably the top enhancement talent right now in the WWF here in 1993 is Barry Horowitz. So keep that in mind. Horowitz, the Red Knight. As this match continues on, the Knights now working over Bruce. Getting some heat on Bruce Hart is Jeff Gaylord here. Oh, no. Going into a counter. Nice transition there by Bruce Hart, but he can't get the pin. The referee here looks like it's Danny Davis. Pritchard has also stated because Bart Gunn didn't have a match here on the show. He was even being discussed the day of the show. So I'm thinking possibly Funk was to play the Red Knight. And Horowitz seemed to fit the gear, and they gave Horowitz the Red Knight here. But before they gave it to Horowitz, there was discussion of Bart Gunn being one of the knights, as he was standing around backstage, not doing a whole lot here at the pay-per-view. And Shawn now eating a turnbuckle. Nope, he reverses it and sends Bruce back down. Bruce taking a long heat spot here. And while they work over one of the Hart brothers, let's talk a little bit about that last match, shall we? You know, I wanted to mention this, but they celebrated so quickly and went straight into the Shawn Michaels and then the Hart family promo that I didn't get the chance to mention the Jannetty and the Kid when they went over. It was the big surprise win. Vince McMahon always loved that because it showed you anything can happen at the Survivor Series. Anyone can win. And the Kid, of course, so many upsets already. They threw the bone to Marty Jannetty and the 1-2-3 Kid there, the least likely to survive the match. And we can go all the way back to the original Survivor Series, as Bruce has finally made the hot tag out to brother Bret. Bret with the O'Connor roll, but can't get the big man to stay down for the count of 3. But we can go all the way back to Survivor Series 87, the Killer Bees of all teams surviving that Survivor Series match, the 10-team match back at the original Survivor Series. And since that time, Jim Runzell, Brian Blair went on record and stated that was Vince McMahon throwing them a bone because they had been promised the tag team titles, according to them, at least 2 or 3 times up until that point, and it never came into fruition. So they were basically thrown a bone there and allowed to survive at the inaugural Survivor Series. And nice spinning heel kick there from Owen Hart, but Valentine in to stop the count, and now it's like Bonzo Gonzo. It's, it looks like everybody in the ring, all 8 men into the ring in all 4 corners. The Hart brothers whipping all 4 heels into one another. Oh, and they all collide. Every Knight manages to fall out of the ring, even Greg Valentine, who stumbles slowly and falls out of the ring as the Black Knight is left in there alone, and Owen Hart off the top rope with a missile drop kick. Wipes out Jeff Gaylord. 2, 3. Our first elimination here in the Hart family, the Family Feud match. The Black Knight eliminated 10 minutes, 49 seconds, and Owen right to work on Barry Horowitz. And these guys are no strangers to one another. You can go all the way back to the Blue Blazer, who also participated in Survivor Series 88, but you can go back to the Blue Blazer, his debut at the company, worked a ton with Barry Horowitz on the house shows and some of the televised house shows. Did Owen with Horowitz, and then when Owen returned again to team with Jim the Anvil Neidhart as part of the New Foundation, one of, if not his very first match, was against the likes of Barry Horowitz in a tag team match in late 1991. So Owen knows all about Barry Horowitz, and just a hell of a worker was Horowitz, as the Hitman now in working the leg, softening him up as the Red Knight stuck in the middle of the ring. The Hart family making some crisp, fast tags and sticking to the leg of Barry Horowitz here. And so we'll break it down for you again. The Blue Knight, Valentine, supposedly always slated to be Greg the Hammer Valentine. The Red Knight, Barry Horowitz, I believe was initially the Red Knight was to be Terry Funk, but, you know, the horse got sick and it is what it is. Black Knight already gone. Jeff Gaylord back to Memphis and the USWA. And, of course, Jerry Lawler out of this match due to the indictment and the the misconduct charges laid upon Jerry Lawler in Louisville, Kentucky. And until he gets those things straightened out, Vince McMahon took Lawler off of WWF TV, and he even stopped sending guys down to the USWA. Now, I don't know if that was related, but it's very coincidental, the time frame anyway on everything. So Jerry Lawler gone right now, and Shawn Michaels forced to come in just less than a week before the pay-per-view to try to get some heat against the Hart family, mocking Stu and Helen on Sunday, just 3 days prior, as part of the Survivor Series showdown. And that's all the heat we got. But leading into the pay-per-view, the announcers really selling it, really putting it over. Shawn even mentioned at the beginning of that Rios roundup that he owes the Hitman something, because it was just last year at Survivor Series 92, Bret Hart, when he was WWF champion, defeated Shawn Michaels in the main event of the pay-per-view. Horowitz sends Keith Hart face first into the corner. We may see the Knights finally mount some more offense here on one of the Hart brothers. one man eliminated. The Hart brothers leading now 4-3 in this matchup. So the last match, the match with Jannetty and the Kid surviving the match, that went about 26 minutes, guys. 26 minutes. And near the end there, they were kind of struggling just a little. The heels, Adam Bomb, Rick Martel. I'm not putting down Rick Martel at all, but you can only do so much. 26 minutes of work. You've put in pretty much everything you can do in a Survivor Series match at that point, and it was the perfect time to take it home. 26 minutes, keep that in mind. This match here, no continuity, 3 nights, mysterious nights, nobody knows who they are, and nobody really cares who they are if you listen to the crowd here. And then on the other side, Keith and Bruce, the average WWF fan, doesn't really know who they are either. And then there's really no storyline here between Bret and Shawn Michaels, so there's just not a lot of heat here. Shawn Michaels, nice slingshot splash by Shawn Michaels onto the arm of Keith Hart. So the heel team going to work over the arm of Keith Hart. Would it be fun to see Greg Valentine go for the figure 4 here, though, as we see those patented Valentine red boots on with the blue night costume. And while we got some downtime here, Greg Valentine on the offense, working an armbar of all things. While we got some downtime, let's talk about buy rates. As we go back a year, Survivor Series 92 did only 190,000 buys. Not a very good pay-per-view overall. But the buy rate here this year, Survivor Series 93, drops another 10,000. Yes, it drops, guys, from 190 the year before to 180,000 here in 1993. Let's look what the pay-per-views do moving forward. The Royal Rumble picks back up just slightly, believe it or not. 200,000 buys, and then WrestleMania 10 years in the making, 420,000 buys. Good buy rate there for WrestleMania 10, but it was WrestleMania after all. Then we go back to King of the Ring 94, 185,000 buys, almost matches here with Survivor Series 93. SummerSlam 94 will do 300,000 buys. Not the best, but not too shabby compared to some of these others. And Survivor Series 94 reportedly does 254,000 buys. I have to wonder if that's a typo online, because that's insane compared to some of the other ratings, or buy rates that the Survivor Series does. But here in 1993, 180,000 buys. Not even the worst of all time. Fast forward 2 years later, 95, when the WWF was in the pits, Survivor Series 95 does a measly 140,000 buys. As the nights continue, this long stretch of the match working over the arm of Keith Hart, trying to get heat on one of the Hart brothers that the fans really don't know. They probably would have got a little more out of the crowd had they been working over the Hitman or the Rocket. But instead, we saw a heat segment on Bruce Hart, and now we're getting a lengthy heat segment here on Keith. Fundamentally, nothing wrong with this. Unfortunately, no heat here, as the fans, again, have no idea who any of the Knights are, so they don't care about the Knights. And the Knights are working over a couple of the Hart brothers that the fans don't really associate wrestling with either. And so while Keith and Bruce have both had history in the ring back in Stampede Wrestling, they're not really known here by the casual fan or the WWF fan. Now, the story here, the story that comes out of this match, coincidentally enough, was written by one of the Hart brothers. In fact, the story that goes on to be Bret Hart versus Owen Hart was written. A big, long book written by Bruce Hart, as he handed it over to Vince McMahon and said, hey, check this out. Handed it over to Bruce Pritchard. Look at this, guys. See what you think. Tell me what you think. This would be a great story if I came in and turned on Bret. And we had this epic feud that led all the way to WrestleMania. Vince and Bruce read the script, love it. It's a phenomenal storyline written by Bruce Hart. Hell of a book. Problem is, Bret doesn't want to work the story with Bruce. He'd rather work it with Owen, because he knew that would be the much better match. It would get much more heat. So Bret speaks with McMahon and says, yeah, I like the idea, but... And Bret, that lousy hyena brother, turns on Bruce by substituting with Owen, and we're all better for that. Let's be honest. Horowitz goes for a leapfrog, and the Hitman catches him and takes him down, turns it over right into the sharpshooter, and just like that, Barry Horowitz, the Red Knight, now eliminated as the Hammer comes in and clotheslines the Hitman right in the face. Ugh. Barry Horowitz eliminated 18 minutes into the match, which only means we have another 13 minutes to go And Keith Hart on the outside selling the shoulder as the hammer sends Bret Hart out to the floor as well. Keith Hart at this point, he's been a fireman for quite a while. I think Keith traded in his wrestling boots, at least full-time, to become a fireman in the late 70s. So he's been out of the ring full-time for a very long time, though looks to be in solid shape here. Shawn off the apron onto the back of the Hitman as Danny Davis busy moving Keith Hart back to his corner. And I've already pointed out Bruce Hart, a substitute teacher. And I think Keith, after retiring from being a firefighter, went on to be a substitute teacher as well, if I'm not mistaken. Bret Hart kicking out as the hammer drops the patented elbow drop. There it is, the hammer across the chest of Bret Hart. But here he's only a Blue Knight. So, of course, the Hitman kicks out on the 1 count. Wouldn't you know it? And it's down to 4 on 2. The veteran Greg the Hammer Valentine and Shawn Michaels against Bret and all of his... Look at this. On the outside, Stu Hart working over the shoulder of his son Keith. I always thought that was so awkward. So odd. Keith Hart sitting on the outside, still selling his shoulder, sitting on the steel steps as Papa Stu sits there and gives him a massage. So weird. And there we see another shot of the Hart family in the front row looking on, rooting for Bret and company to defeat Shawn and Greg the Hammer Valentine. And you can kind of see where this is going. Honestly, when I was watching this live, I kept questioning, why aren't Bruce and Keith being eliminated from this match? They're not full-time wrestlers. It doesn't hurt them to be eliminated, and it shines better for Owen and Bret. Now, that's the question I asked going in as I was watching this unfold. Now, by the end of the match, and certainly by Royal Rumble time, I understood the booking here of the match just a little better, because I go back to the story of Bruce Hart presenting this feud with Bret Hart to the higher-ups, and Bret Hart asking it to be changed from Bruce to Owen. I'm sure Bruce wasn't happy about that. But it leads to that 5-star match at WrestleMania 10, and it really leads to Owen Hart's career here in the WWF taking off. And you can thank all of that to Bruce Hart, I guess, if you think about it. As the Bret Hart versus Bruce Hart, maybe Bruce certainly comes off as a dick many a times, but I don't know if he would have got over. I know he wouldn't have gotten over to the level of Owen Hart in the match, probably nowhere near the 5-star classic that we got at WrestleMania. The Hitman breaking free of Shawn Michaels. This is the first time we've seen Shawn back in the ring, if I'm not mistaken, since leaving after SummerSlam. We may have seen Shawn once since then. I can't recall. I'll have to go back and check that. But Shawn Michaels hasn't done a whole lot here in the last couple of months. So it's good to see him back in action and back at the pay-per-view. Now, don't get me wrong. I was the biggest Shawn Michaels fan. Probably my favorite wrestler at this point in time in the company. So I was happy to see Shawn back here at the Survivor Series, seeing him back on the pay-per-view, seeing him in the ring at all. But I have to admit, the heat for this match was completely let out when Jerry Lawler was removed from it. There's just nothing behind this. And while you can never really go wrong with a Bret and Shawn Michaels match, you throw in a few Knights, you throw in Keith and Bruce, and this is what you get. The Hitman coming off the middle rope with a clothesline on Greg Valentine, and he looks for the hot tag, makes it. Here comes Owen in. Owen back in, gonna unload on Greg the Hammer. And a nice drop kick by Owen on Valentine. And we'll have to see just how fast. Oh, we see the blonde hair starting to protrude, starting to sneak out from the back of the mask of Valentine here as Owen sets him up with a big slam and going up into the corner. And we may be macho elbow from the middle rope of Owen Hart, and Shawn Michaels in to break it up. And here we go again. Bruce Hart in, and he's not supposed to be, I don't think. He's coming in to get himself over, though. Double noggin knocker. Nope. Bruce going to take Shawn Michaels. Oh, wow. Shawn slides through the ropes to escape. He's too smart for the Hart family, but Shawn lands it. Oh, man. Shawn Michaels lands at the feet of Stu Hart. And Shawn grabs hold of Stu, and Stu just nailed the Heartbreak Kid. Great sell job by Shawn Michaels, and then Owen with a pescado to boot. That really woke the crowd up, really woke me up when I was watching this live. Stu Hart popping Shawn Michaels one, and the heels collide as Owen Hart goes back to the top, looking for the looking for the crossbody on Shawn, but Michaels ducks, and Owen lands on top of Greg Valentine instead, and now the Hart brothers double clothesline sends Shawn over the top rope out of the ring, and Owen drops the hammer down with a bulldog. This may be it. Owen Hart looking for his brother's finisher. Owen Hart going to lock in the sharpshooter. And Valentine will submit to the sharpshooter, this time done by Owen, and even Bret clapping, applauding. His brother eliminating the Blue Knight. All of the Knights now eliminated. Valentine out at 23 minutes and 55 seconds. And that still means another 7 minutes of Shawn Michaels taking on the Hart family. You might think, well, it could be excited. Shawn Michaels is the one in the ring. Well, it could be, guys. We'll just have to wait and see how the offense unfolds here. But that sharpshooter by Owen, seeds planted, and what I mean by that is we go back to the Survivor Series Showdown. Remember, there was a match that was scheduled to air on the show that was removed, and that was Lawler taking on Owen Hart. Owen Hart getting trapped in the ropes, Lawler berating him, humiliating him, insulting him by slapping Owen, spitting on Owen, leading to Bret to come to ringside and attack the King, causing Owen to lose by DQ. And then, of course, after the match, as we found out through the internet, like the history of WWE.com, shout out there, guys. Richard Land does a fantastic job. And we found out that it was actually Bret the Hitman Hart costing Owen by disqualification, sticking up for his brother, and then Owen getting upset with the Hitman after the match. Hey, I had this match won! Woo! But unfortunately, Jerry Lawler gets the win there on a DQ. The match never airs, but it makes sense. Later in the night, it's Bret Hart going after WWF title and Yokozuna in the main event of the showdown. And then as Bret has Yoko in the sharpshooter, it looks as if Owen is coming to ringside to cheer on his brother, but in actuality, it was Jerry Lawler that had come ringside to attempt to interfere in the match, but Owen came to ringside actually to put a stop to it, to attack the King, but that's all edited out of the final version because Lawler's gone from the company. Shawn nails the super kick, and Bruce Hart kicks out of the super kick. Not the finisher of Shawn Michaels yet, though I'm still upset that Bruce Hart's kicking out of the super kick there. Nice sell job by HBK. We'll get back to the story, though, at the showdown. And so the edited version shows Owen Hart interfering in the match, attacking Yokozuna with the salt bucket because Mr. Fuji had gotten involved. So we go back and we see Owen Hart initially believes that Bret cost him the match with Jerry Lawler, which never aired. And then later, Owen comes out and does the same thing to his brother, costing Bret essentially the WWF title. As Shawn Michaels eats a catapult in the corner. Now, what actually aired versus what actually happened, two completely different stories, and what a tremendous story it would have made had Lawler just kept, well, Lawler found innocent on all charges, at least acquitted of all charges, so he'll be back in time for WrestleMania 10. But the King being removed here from the Survivor Series screwed up so many things, and you give the WWF credit for their due diligence to go in and edit everything last minute to try to make everything still make sense, but to remove Lawler from their television. I don't think they would have went to so much trouble had it not been for the WWF also currently being indicted, Vince McMahon being indicted on the steroids trial upcoming in 1994. Awesome belly-to-belly suplex from Owen on HBK. But it would have meant so much more had we had Jerry Lawler out here. But these nights, rough choices. Just think how close we were to seeing Terry Funk out here. Oh, there it is. The big spot that leads to so much more. 1, 2, 3, Owen Hart going off the ropes. Bret Hart blinded, walking across the apron. Owen shot into the ropes, hits his brother, the Hitman, sends him off the apron, over onto the guardrail. Owen Hart distracted by his brother, allowing Shawn Michaels to schoolboy the Rocket and get the win, eliminating Owen Hart 27 minutes, 26 seconds, and Owen Hart is pissed off. The first brother to be eliminated from the match. You never thought it would have been Owen, and he is hot. He is yelling down at the Hitman, while Bruce, Keith, and Stu are over to check on Bret. What a bump by Bret Hart as he flies off the apron and goes through the guardrail. The guardrail topples over with Bret Hart there. Really cool spot. They couldn't have played it any better, couldn't have planned it any better. And Owen Hart upset, finally leaving ringside. And Shawn Michaels getting a breather, drinking a bottle of water while he waits for one of the Hart brothers to get back into the ring. They're all tending to Bret Hart, and Owen Hart very upset, looking back as he's leaving down the aisle, unhappy, blaming seemingly blaming Bret for his elimination from the match. And with Bret down on the outside, it's Bruce Hart back in the ring working over Shawn, getting a near fall on the Heartbreak Kid here. And that last elimination, we're about 28 minutes into the match, only about 3 minutes left. So we've made it, guys. Well, I don't want to count my chickens before they're hatched, but we're almost there. As Bruce goes into the sleeper hold very late in the match. Probably not the best time to work a rest hold, Bruce. And Keith Hart egging his brother on. Lock it in. Cinch it in. As Bret Hart we see finally up. Ooh, and Bruce goes face first into the corner buckle. Shawn Michaels escapes. And we see Bret Hart stirring on the outside. Finally, back up on the apron is the Hitman. As Shawn and Bruce both down in the ring. But they're both back up. And here we go, right back into it. Oh, and right back down. Both guys crackheads. I never understood that. Whenever we got the old double down spot when the guys would get back up and crack heads and go right back down. You guys were already down. No need to get up and do it again. But here we are. Shawn has nobody to tag. Bruce Hart has two brothers. And there it is, a tag. Well, I wouldn't have made that choice, but a tag to Keith Hart. Bret Hart's still standing over there selling the effects of that bump. And we go from a sleeper hold from Bruce into an abdominal stretch from Keith Hart. Somebody should tell him that IRS has a patent on that hold. And Shawn Michaels escapes with that hip toss. And now Keith, there it is. It's the tag to the Hitman. Bret Hart in with Shawn Michaels. And we go back in time all the way 1 year to Survivor Series 92. These guys closed the show. WWF Champion versus IC Champion at that time. Bret Hart no longer WWF Champion, and Shawn would lead you to believe he's still the Intercontinental Champion, though that's not true. Shawn up and over in one corner, and on the other side, Bret Hart with a punt kick. Is Shawn resting across that top rope. The Hitman really laying in it. Oh, and now HBK crotched on that top rope as Bret has a little fun bouncing the rope. Shawn back into the center of the ring, and the Hitman. Here we go. It's finish time. Bret looking for the sharpshooter. Shawn trying to kick his way out, kicks Bret Hart over. Shawn escaped, crawling out. Where's Shawn Michaels rolls out of the ring, washing his hands. Where's he going? Shawn Michaels trying to leave. Bruce Hart got to get himself over. Nails HBK, and Shawn Michaels now with a jog. Shawn Michaels jogs so that he's not returning, guys. Danny Davis making the count. There it is. Shawn Michaels counted out. Can't do a job here in his first match back. Shawn Michaels taking the count out loss, and the Brothers 3, Bruce, Keith, and Bret will survive here at the Survivor Series. Owen Hart eliminated as the three brothers left standing in the ring are celebrating, and the Hart family at ringside celebrating behind the guardrail, and Stu Hart not selling it at all. Bret Hart up on the, here we go. Here it is. Owen Hart back out to ringside. He doesn't look happy. Let's pick up some commentary here. Owen Hart making his way back to ringside, and he does not look happy.
Happy for Owen Hart back in to celebrate with the Brothers Hart. And yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, they are. Oh, Owen! Oh, wait a minute! What's going on here? I don't know. A bit of a discussion going on.
Well, the Harts are nuts, and they're Canadian. They love to fight. There's ice under this parquet floor. They'd be there at a hockey game.
Owen Hart, I guess, embarrassed as a result of being the only family member counted out.
I know what's going down. Owen is sick. He is sick and tired of living in the shadow of Bret the Hitman.
And Bobby Heenan telling the entire story there for us. Owen is sick of living in the shadow of the Hitman, and the rest of the Hart family who stick up for Bret, and not necessarily baby brother Owen, who is shoving Bret Hart. I loved when he came back, and you didn't know what was going on, and Owen grabs Bret by his singlet and yanks him down off the middle rope. An argument here as Bret Hart trying to calm his brother. Keith and Bruce trying to calm things as well. Bret just playing the big brother, just calm down. Owen Hart is having none of it. He is in the face of the Hitman, pointing and shoving at all of his brothers. Is Owen Hart, and Stu Hart signaling for everybody to squash it. Helen Hart looks uncomfortable in the front row, trying to shed some tears here, supposedly trying to show she's upset at what Owen's doing. What is he doing to his family here? Just in time for the holidays, Thanksgiving tomorrow. What's it going to be like at the dinner table? As, Stu, come on, that little bastard. That bastard. Owen Hart in the ring all by himself now. upset that his brothers celebrated without him, you'd have to think. And Owen Hart still upset that he was the only one humiliated by being the only one eliminated from the match, still trying to plead his case with father Stu Hart. Is Stu trying to calm Owen down now? Owen telling Stu, it's just not fair. What about me? What about Owen Hart? And up next, guys, we're going to see Todd Pettingill's actually going to try to get an interview here with Owen Hart in a minute. We're also going to be seeing a little bit of ringside squabble between Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan. So keep your eyes out for that as we're going to change announce teams. The team from Radio WWF, that's Jim Ross and Gorilla Monsoon, are going to come over to commentary, pay-per-view commentary for the next match, while Vince McMahon and Bobby Heenan go over and work Radio WWF. And we're going to see a little bit of a tussle between Gorilla and the Brain. We're also going to see a WrestleMania 10 promo here upcoming. We're going to check all of that out in just a minute. Plus, the All-Americans still to come, taking on the Foreign Fanatics. And let's not forget, 4 DOINKS. How are they going to pull that one off? Taking on the team of Bam Bam Bigelow, the Head Shrinkers, and Bastion Booger. Owen Hart leaving ringside now. And Todd Pettingill going to try to pick up an interview here with Owen Hart. We'll see what happens. Let's see if Todd Pettingill is successful talking to the Rocket.
On this, let's take you over now. Let's take you over now to Todd Pettingill.
Vince, I'm going to try to get a word with Owen. Owen, can you tell me what's going on? Owen, what happened?
I don't want to talk about it, all right?
Owen. Oh, we're not getting any answers. Let's go back to Vince McMahon and Bobby at ringside.
All right, thank you very much. An unfortunate occurrence, Bobby Heenan. A family feud, to say the least, here in the Survivor Series, but one we thought we were not going to see. Standing by now, ladies and gentlemen, and joining us for Radio WWF, Gorilla Monsoon, along with Jim Ross, and momentarily we're going to do a little tag out and a tag in because, yes, Bobby Heenan, you're coming over here close to the...
Oh, no.
Yes,
no.
We're going to do radio, Bobby Heenan.
You and me.
And the Gorilla and Jim Ross are going to do television. You ready, gentlemen?
No. Oh, we are ready. We're really ready.
We certainly are.
And he's ready for you, Brain.
Gorilla, any comments?
Well, you got that poor excuse for a human being over there, and now he's going to head this way. I might just have an opportunity to get my hands on him.
Well, the way he's talking about Ray Combs, can you imagine that?
All right, I'm not talking about Ray Combs, Brain.
All right, let's go over to Todd Pettingill, and we're ready to tag out and do some radio, folks.
All right. Here we go.
News, obviously, over the reaction here of Owen Hart, 1993 WWF Survivor Series. There's no question that this was a strange occurrence. We're going to try to find out what exactly happened and try to get a word from Owen Hart. We will keep you posted just as soon as we get any definitive word. Wait a minute, there's something going on back at the ringside. Let's go back there right now.
Well, we got some fireworks right here, ladies and gentlemen. Gorilla Monsoon just washing his hand. Hey, wait a minute. Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain, what's going to happen here? What a Survivor Series we are having.
Sunday, March 20th. An event so hot it'll bake the Big Apple. Sunday, March 20th, back where it all began. Madison Square Garden in New York City. WrestleMania 10. 10 years in the making. Sunday, March 20th.
And we are excited about that, ladies and gentlemen. Madison Square Garden, the site of WrestleMania 10, Sunday, March 20th. We'll be telling you a lot more about that. Well, Gorilla, did you get your business taken care of?
Did you see that, Jim Ross?
I saw it.
Did you see that fountain of misinformation? Did you hear the things that he said? I should have cold-cocked him.
I deal with him every week on the WWF Wrestling Challenge.
Well, that's your problem.
It is my problem, no doubt about it. Ladies and gentlemen, later in this broadcast, the All-Americans will meet the Foreign Fanatics. Let us take you back and show you how these teams got together. This is going to be a confrontation of epic proportions later tonight.
Now, don't sweat it. The All-Americans and Foreign Fanatics will headline this pay-per-view, the main event, but we're going to go back in time right now and take a look at just what transpired. Here's a clip of Tatanka being laid out there, boom, by Ludwig Borga in that steel chair. Borga becoming the first man to defeat the Native American. And sadly enough, just a couple of months from now, Borga will be gone from the company. But there it is, getting the pin, and then Yokozuna comes in BORGA and Yoko take Tatanka out of the match, but he's going to be replaced by The Undertaker. Then on the other side, the All-Americans, Lex Luger, eliminates Pierre with a concussion after the big steel-plated forearm to the skull of the Quebecer. And of course, Quebecer Pierre now replaced by Crush, who is also managed by Mr. Fuji, much like the team captain Yokozuna. But that was something else. I wanted to keep that audio in there, guys, of Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan because of what's to come here in just a couple of weeks here on TV when Bobby Heenan is ejected from the building and the World Wrestling Federation by Gorilla. But just some cool stuff there. Seeing Gorilla get handsy, physical with Bobby, grabbing him, threatening to deck him, threatening to chop him. Bobby Heenan selling it tremendously, picking up a pair of readers, some cheaters, some glasses, putting them on. You wouldn't hit a man with glasses, would you? Of course, Gorilla wearing glasses as well. Heenan even pretending like he's going to deck Gorilla from behind before Monsoon catches him again. So fun stuff there between the two, as usual. And I just thought it was pretty important to get in there, get some audio in there from those two. And wouldn't it be cool if we could own copies of some of these early Radio WWF pay-per-view versions, or excuse me, Radio WWF versions of the pay-per-views, just hearing them called from the radio of Gorilla Monsoon and Jim Ross here in 1993, and hearing Vince and Bobby come over for the upcoming match as well. Now, I did personally get Radio WWF by the early part of 1994 through its demise around SummerSlam 1994. So I have several months of Radio WWF somewhere recorded on cassette tape downstairs in my storage room. However, at the same time, I never got any of the pay-per-views. The pay-per-views did not air on my local market radio station. Mostly played, from my understanding, for the boys overseas, but I'd love to have copies. It would be so cool to pick those up. The old Radio WWF pay-per-views. As we see now, Jim Cornette cutting a promo with his Foreign Fanatics. They'll be ready later to take on Lex Luger and his boys, the All-Americans. But speaking of Jim Cornette, up next, it's going to be the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team match, a sanctioned Smoky Mountain title match, right here on WWF TV. Hell, right here on WWF pay-per-view. Unbelievable. For the first time ever, an outside promotion coming into the WWF in a title defense as the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson defending their titles against the Heavenly Bodies. And here they come. Out he comes. Here it is, manager Jim Cornette out to the ring, getting ready to announce his team of the Gigolo Jimmy Del Rey and the Doctor of Desire Tom Pritchard, the Heavenly Bodies. And it won't be long before Stan Lane is on our TV screen. I'd rather see Stan Lane in our ring instead of Jimmy Del Rey, I'll tell you that much. But let's pick up old Jimmy Cornette in the ring.
I think I have to lean towards the Foreign Fanatics.
Oh, we're being interrupted, ladies and gentlemen. James E. Cornette has taken center stage.
Boston in a plain brown wrapper. The Doctor of Desire, Tom Pritchard, and the Gigolo, Jimmy Del Rey. They are the Heavenly Bodies.
The Heavenly Bodies making their way to the ring as it's sold out. Boston Garden crowd reacts in kind. This team 4 times have held the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Championship. And for you fans that may not be aware of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, it is a regional wrestling promotion down in the beautiful Smoky Mountain area in Tennessee.
But they're not the champions right now, are they, Jim Ross?
Indeed, they are not.
The world and gonna make history tonight. Please help me welcome Mr. Jim Cornette.
James C.
What is this, the Mutual Admiration Society?
I saw him on the phone earlier today talking to somebody. James E.
Picking up a little different commentary there. Gorilla Monsoon and Jim Ross taking over for the pay-per-view just for this matchup. And of course, Vince being kind, I'll give you guys the Smoky Mountain match, because Jim Ross knows a little bit more about the history in Smoky Mountain, about the history of these teams than one Vince McMahon. So wise move there is out they come. Ricky and Robert, did you ever think you'd see the day the Rock and Roll Express, former multiple-time NWA World Tag Team Champions, out here on a WWF pay-per-view, Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champions. And I didn't get Smoky Mountain in my market until 1994, so I only lived vicariously through the aftermaths with Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but I followed it, and I was so pumped to see these teams here. And we got just a little taste of the Bodies as Bodies attack the Rock and Rolls right away here. We got just a little taste of these two teams up in WCW at the beginning of this year, before Bill Watts left the company, he brought in Smoky Mountain Wrestling in a crossover, and we saw the Rock and Rolls and the Heavenly Bodies up. Of course, that was the Stan Lane version, the much better version of the Bodies, but up in WCW in the early part of 93, even wrestling on a pay-per-view up that way. So, believe it or not, Smoky Mountain Wrestling has participated in both WCW and the WWF in the same year, and both, well, there we go, Ricky Morton bringing both Bodies out of the ring the hard way to start the matchup. And Morton going to do a suicide dive. Robert Gibson assisting. No, double clothesline. Through the ropes, Ricky Morton on both of the Bodies. As we just get things going here, things starting off hot. Unfortunately, if you listen to the original audio of this crowd, they could care less. Sadly, the crowd not really into this match, not really into these teams. Boston, just not the market for the old Crockett team of the Rock and Rolls, the old Mid-South Rock and Rolls. And speaking of the Mid-South, this feud here between Cornette and the Rock and Roll Express go all the way back to the Mid-South Wrestling promotion. Nearly a decade ago, when Cornette formed the team of Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton as the Midnight Express, an epic feud went on for nearly a year between the two teams, the Rock and Rolls and the Midnights, and it just went on from there. They moved over to Crockett, and the feud continued on for many years. More Midnights and Rock and Rolls there throughout the 1980s. We've seen the teams even wrestle as late as 1990. Before Cornette left the company, Robert Gibson suffered an injury. He was out for quite a while there. And then Cornette forms Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and immediately he goes to his good buddies or his arch enemies, depending on which side you're on, the Rock and Roll Express. Robert Gibson busting out a flying head scissors. They have come to work here tonight on pay-per-view, and I would expect nothing less. Now, if you're listening to this match instead of me in the future, you'll notice the crowd completely dead. You'll even visibly see, as this match goes along, tons of the crowd getting up and heading to concessions, heading to the bathroom. Nobody has any respect for this match. This match just dead on arrival as far as this crowd was concerned. But I was looking forward to this match because I remember it being pretty solid. And I've seen reviews online over the years as putting this match over as being a pretty damn good match, and I would expect nothing less. These guys have been working against one another for the last couple of years in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and Morton's been working against Cornette teams for, like I said, Morton and Gibson for nearly a decade. So they know the spots, they know the ideas, and Pritchard, a hell of a worker. I always loved Tom Pritchard. I liked when I got to see him in Dallas on ESPN, and always kept up with Tom Pritchard in the After Mags as well. Jimmy Del Rey, now there's a guy I didn't know a whole lot about. Oh, and Jimmy Del Rey accidentally super kicking his own partner there. And it's nonstop action so far from the teams. Lots of great spots already. And the Rock and Roll sending both Bodies into the same corner, and Morton going to monkey flip Pritchard out, and now Gibson monkey flipping Del Rey out as well. And Atomic Drop's going to send the Bodies colliding, and maybe it's time to take a breath. Nope. We're going to go for the old rowboat spot here. Talk about old time rock and roll. Rock and Roll Express spreading the legs, ripping the groins out from under the Heavenly Bodies. And Jim Cornette wants a timeout. And Cordy, you've been around long enough to know there are no timeouts in professional wrestling or sports entertainment. And it looks like the Rock and Roll is going to try to work the leg of Dr. Tom here. And like I pointed out, much better was Stan Lane than Jimmy Del Rey as far as an entertainer goes. Now, Del Rey, a hell of a worker, has a lot of great spots you'll see, and a good bumper as well. I just didn't care for him. I was never a big fan of Jimmy Del Rey, and apparently neither were the other wrestlers. And you know what? We're over an hour and a half into this show, and I haven't dropped you guys a timestamp. They really haven't given me an opportunity to here yet in this match, but we're going to do it anyway. And right now, we are at 1 hour and 37 minutes, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So 1 hour and 37 minutes into this pay-per-view. Still another hour and 10 minutes to go. A couple more matches still on the sheet as the Rock and Rolls continue to work over poor Dr. Tom Pritchard. Jimmy Del Rey thinks the wiser. He drops down before they can hit him, but he's back up and boom, they nail him anyway, knocking Del Rey off the apron. And it continues to be action personified. The Rock and Roll's going to try. Another wishbone split here. Poor Tom Pritchard tonight. But Cornette with the storied history here with the Rock and Roll Express, and Jim Ross, I'm sure, likely tells some of that story here throughout this match. So it's great to have Jim Ross on commentary for this particular match especially. But we saw Jim Ross come in, debuted at WrestleMania 9. He did the King of the Ring pay-per-view and then removed from full-time commentary, at least pay-per-view commentary, as he's still doing the B-Show Wrestling Challenge with Bobby the Brain Heenan up until this point anyway, and doing Radio WWF now. So he's actually doing commentary for these pay-per-views on the radio. He did it for SummerSlam and doing it here for the remainder of the Survivor Series as well. Now, JR is going to be exiting the company, his first time being released from the company here shortly before WrestleMania 10. Morton, Gibson here comes one of my favorite spots. Gibson saves Morton. Pritchard going to try to do the same thing here for Del Rey, but nope. Del Rey whipped into the opposite corner. Always love this spot by the Rock and Rolls. And now Pritchard brought into the ring. And whoop, the bodies looked like they were going to collide. No, they didn't, but double noggin knocker. And I was really looking forward. I cut myself off earlier when I meant to say this. I was really looking forward to watching this match without the audio, because it's the dead crowd that really kills this match for me. Makes it hard for me, even as a fan, to get into the match because of the silence from the crowd here. So watching this with different ears, basically here, with no crowd audio, with no audio whatsoever, you get to actually enjoy the match and watch it for what it is. And so far, it has not disappointed. Constant action so far from the Rock and Roll Express as Dr. Tom now tags back in. He's going to try to have his hands at Ricky Morton. We'll see how that plays out. This match goes, if I remember, I read somewhere between 13 and 15 minutes. They give these guys plenty of time to put on a decent match here for pay-per-view. As Dr. Tom busts out the sit-out powerbomb, but he doesn't go for the cover. What's that about? Tom Pritchard might have had the win there. Sit-out powerbomb by Tom Pritchard onto Ricky Morton, and it's time for Ricky Morton to play Ricky Morton. And by that I mean to take the heat, it appears, as the bodies finally take over on the offense. Going to try to wear down Rock and Roll Ricky Morton here. An assisted moonsault. Ooh, looks like Del Rey landed on his head there with that assisted moonsault by Tom Pritchard, but he lands on top of Ricky Morton, getting a 2 count. And 2 more Survivor Series matches to go, but they separated up right in the middle here with the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team title match. And you got to imagine Jerry Jarrett, who's been with the company, who owns the USWA, who's been with the WWF here for the last year, who has been named, unless you're talking to Bruce Pritchard, but everyone else has said that Jerry Jarrett basically the successor to Vince McMahon had he gone to jail. So had Vince gone to prison, it was Jerry Jarrett being groomed to take over the company while Vince McMahon was in jail. Yes, they were still going to go to prison and book the shows, believe it or not. That was the play. Oh my God! Del Rey with an acai moonsault all the way back here in 1993. Out to the floor. Talking about pulling out all the stops. The Heavenly Bodies made their WWF pay-per-view debut at SummerSlam, and they get another shot here against the Rock and Roll Express here at the Survivor Series. And wow, Del Rey, like I said, a far better wrestler than Sweet Stan Lane, but Stan Lane just had that ring presence about him that Jimmy Del Rey just doesn't seem to have. Jimmy Del Rey, a hell of a wrestler, though. Don't get me wrong. And hell of an enhancement talent throughout the 1980s down in Florida is Jimmy Backlund. No relation to Bob. Nice power slam there by Pritchard onto Ricky Morton. And still to come, guys, that 4 Doinks match. That's up next. And wow, that's going to be something else, if I remember correctly. And I do know, I remember correctly. And when I say something else, I mean, well, I'll wait. I'll let you guys wait and see exactly what I'm referring to there. Wait and see who the 4 Doinks are. Wait and see how the match goes down. But back to this match, it is Jimmy Del Rey now working over Ricky Morton. Ricky Morton, tremendous seller for so many years. There's a story. They go back in time, Jim Cornette, the Midnight Express, some of the other teams as well. They would get so much heat because Ricky Morton was such a babyface, did such a tremendous sell job at taking a beating that he caused, and sometimes damn near caused, so many riots back in the South. And there we see a nice combination. Looked like a side slam into an inverted bulldog by the Heavenly Bodies, always inventing new moves, tag team moves, did Cornette's tag teams. You have to wonder how much input Jim Cornette had into some of these spots. But you go back and you think about all the near riots and sometimes maybe even riots, Ricky Morton getting beat up had caused, and there's a story that goes back in time, Ricky Morton in the ring selling, looking out to the girls, looking out to the fans, mouthing the words, help me, as he reached out. And they believed back then, guys. It was real, damn it. And they wanted to help their friend, Ricky Morton, so badly that he would nearly cause a riot begging for help, to the point where sometimes Jim Cornette would have to tell Ricky to fucking stop selling like that. Stop mouthing help me to the fans. These guys are going to come over the rail and kill me. So fun stories. Man, I miss those days in professional wrestling. And we're going to talk a lot more about Mid-South and the UWF in the weeks and months to come here on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network as part of the Money and the Miles podcast coming soon to the network. But for right now, it is the Wrestling Memory Grenade, episode 54. We're right smack dab in the middle of the pay-per-view. And next week, let's not forget episode 55. It's the final episode of 1993 here in the WWF as we cover the final week of November TV and all of the news, notes, and television reviews for December of 1993 coming up next week. As they're going for the finisher, Del Rey to the top rope, moonsault, and lands it right on Ricky. I thought Morton was going to move, but 1, 2, and Gibson in to stop the count. Del Rey nailing his finisher, that moonsault body block on Ricky Morton. I was honestly expecting Morton to move, but that didn't happen there. And the Body's looking for their double flapjack, but Morton counters with a double DDT instead. And all three men down. It may be time for the hot tag. Can Ricky Morton make the tag to partner Robert Gibson? Morton on the wrong side of the ring. He may have to do one of those famous Ricky Morton rolls to get over there before he's stopped. And there it is, the Morton roll and the hot tag to Robert Gibson. We've seen it before, but it never gets old. Rock and Roll Express on fire now. Robert Gibson going to take it to the Bodies. Jimmy Del Rey up into the air with a backdrop and an enziguri to the face of Tom Pritchard. And Robert Gibson trying to make the cover, but Del Rey's still in there. Referee Joey Morella trying to get Del Rey out of the ring. Now we got all four men into the action. Ricky Morton has recovered in miraculous time. Isn't it funny how when guys make the hot tags, they go out to the apron for about 5 seconds and they completely recover? It's Ricky Morton with the O'Connor roll on Del Rey, but he's not the legal man. And Pritchard, slings Morton over the top rope like a sack of shit. And Robert Gibson into the ring trying to explain to the referee, hey, Ricky Morton was tossed over the top rope. That's a disqualification. Not here in the WWF, Robert. And now Pritchard sends Gibson out of the ring as well. Morton to the top rope. Flying cross body block by Ricky Morton on Del Rey. Neither the legal man, I should point out. Morella trying to make the cover anyway, or make the count anyway. Pritchard breaks it up, though. I guess everybody's legal at this point. It must be AEW, guys. Ricky Morton leapfrogging. There it is, double drop kick. The Rock and Roll's finisher on Tom Pritchard. Double drop kick. And Morella makes the cover. Oh, Tom Pritchard has to kick out. I don't know if Morella was supposed to make that cover because Jim Cornette was up on the apron distracting. And Morella, here we go. Corny tosses the racket to Del Rey off the top rope. Oh! Blasts it into the back of Gibson. Morella busy getting Morton in the corner. 2, 3. Oh, Pritchard rolled over on top. And the Heavenly Bodies not only steal the win, but they steal the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team titles right here on a WWF pay-per-view. You tell me if Jim Cornette didn't know what he was doing. The Smoky Mountain Tag Team titles change hands on a national promotion, the WWF, the international promotion of the WWF, on their pay-per-view. The Heavenly Bodies new Smoky Mountain Tag Team champions. The Rock and Roll screwed there as they nailed their double dropkick on Tom Pritchard. Jim Cornette causes a distraction. Ricky Morton then forced to his corner by Joey Morella, allowing Cornette to toss the tennis racket up to Del Rey. Here we see the instant replay off the top rope. Nice tennis racket shot to the back of Robert Gibson. Pritchard rolls over on top, and the Heavenly Bodies will steal the win. And up next, guys, it's Bam Bam Bigelow and Company taking on 4 Doinks. And we're going to head backstage. We're going to hear from Bam Bam Bigelow and his unit.
Hey, Sparky! Yeah, you, Bam Bam!
Well, I threw to it too early. We're actually going back in time to, we're going back to Superstars. Doink the Clown, Matt Bourne, Doink the Clown here on the video wall, calling out Bam Bam Bigelow. And this all started way back when, right after SummerSlam, when Doink the Clown started making that babyface turn, and we see here on the screen. So Doink running into Bam Bam Bigelow in the aisleway of a match between matches, and has a little confetti, tosses some confetti onto Bam Bam Bigelow, who doesn't take lightly, warns Doink the Clown, gives him the finger to the face, but Bam Bam going to let it go. He tries to walk by, but Luna Vachon doesn't like what Doink did to her main squeeze, and Luna gets into the face of Doink the Clown, causing him to take his second bucket filled with water and dumping it on the head of Luna Vachon. From there, Bigelow comes back out to attack Doink, but Doink hides under the ring long enough to sneak around ringside and tie a rope, a piece of wire across the guardrail, causing Bigelow to trip over it. So that's where we're at. We're going to go to Todd Pettengill and Bam Bam Bigelow.
The Doinks have been taunting you on that video wall. Are you mentally prepared to take on what really is four of the same person?
Well, you know, Todd, it doesn't matter whether there's one doink, two doinks, four doinks, or 100 doinks. What I have here is the most awesome four-man tag team in the professional wrestling of the WWF today. And boy, are they hungry. Alpha has assured me that the head shakers are going to take care of the job. And the Booger Man is definitely going to be by my side. And Luna, my main squeeze, is going to take care of it. And you, doink, me, Bam Bam Bigelow, will take care of your pesty, your pestilence, your botherance, all your fun, and all your games once and for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bam Bam Bigelow and his team celebrating Thanksgiving. Let's go back to ringside.
Bam Bam Bigelow going to take care of Doink's pestilence and botherance, or pesty and botherance, once and for all. All right. But the Head Shrinkers and Bastion Booger, how they got here? Well, they just were assigned the team. And we've seen at this point Bam Bam Bigelow team with the Head Shrinkers several times, both on TV and at SummerSlam in a six-man tag team match. So that makes sense. And they just work together. Even Alpha and Luna at ringside just works together. Bastion Booger, more of comic relief here. Doesn't really fit the bill. And I even wondered way back then, couldn't they have given Bigelow a better fourth partner? As here we go, we're headed for the ring, and it's introduction time. Bam Bam Bigelow making his way out with his team. And out first, there he is, Bam Bam with Luna, followed by Booger and the Head Shrinkers. And if you guys weren't watching that promo, it was basically Bigelow trying to cut a promo while the Head Shrinkers and Bastion Booger were fighting over pieces of a turkey carcass. I was sad on both ends because it was a delicious looking turkey, and you just don't waste a turkey that looks that good. And on the other side, I was kind of disappointed it wasn't a raw turkey. Now we know why it wasn't. Oh, Fatu getting in some bananas before the match. As Bam Bam and company make their way to ringside, it's about time for the introduction of the Doinks. And we're also going to pick that up on audio. I won't let you guys down there. Let's go back to ringside for the four Doinks. Who will they be? Let's find out.
Ready to find out? Yes, of course you do, but you're not telling. We're going to find out, ladies and gentlemen, just who the Doinks are. What is it?
Bastion is stalking Howard with that carcass. This t-shirt don't even fit.
All right, here we go. Here come the Doinks. Wait a minute, what's this?
Their opponent coming down the aisle.
Wait a minute, take a look at that. Look, no teeth. You know who that is.
That's Luke.
Luke from the Bushwhackers. Luke Doink, give me a break.
Oh, disappointment right out of the gate. The Bushwhackers are two of the Doinks. Well, we know Doink's one of the Doinks, so who's the other? We'll have to wait and see. But what a disappointment. I remember 1993 me thinking, I thought these guys were gone. I was never a fan of the Bushwhackers, and I was so upset that not only did they make the pay-per-view after not even being on TV in God knows how long, but just wasted spots here. And they possibly could have been replaced by the Smoking Guns as Doinks. I don't know. Maybe the Bushwhackers fit in better given this matchup, but here it is, Bushwhackers to ringside, Luke Doink and Butch Doink. Let's see who the other two Doinks will be.
Bobby Heenan.
But that's the best they've ever looked, if you think about it.
Oh, wait a minute, here come two more Doinks now.
Oh, who could this be?
I have no idea. Yes, we all anxiously await two more Doinks. We must have four Doinks. Here they come.
Oh! Yeah!
And so to give you an idea of the WWF fan at the time, they were dead for the Rock and Rolls versus the Heavenly Bodies, which was all action. But they're wrapping along here with Oscar from Men on a Mission, I'll tell you that much. And we go from 3 nights to 4 doinks. And I was a bit let down here. I didn't mind Men on a Mission being there. They were in the forefront of the tag team division at this point. The Bushwhackers, not happy about whatsoever. But I was really confused because the entire feud was between Bam Bam Bigelow and Matt Bourne, Doink the Clown. Of course, Matt Bourne gone from the company, so it moves over to Ray Apollo playing the character of Doink the Clown at this point. But I was very upset because we didn't even get that. There's no Doink in this match, no real Doink, no Ray Apollo in this match taking on Bam Bam Bigelow. So I felt very let down, like there was no payoff here. And how about that? Mabel Doink. Is that not one of the scariest things you've ever seen? Talk about something that nightmares are made of. Mabel dressed as Doink. Ugh, just creeps me out. But from 3 nights to 4 doinks, like I said, and I got to go back as you watch this matchup. Anything but a wrestling match. Pure comedy. As I saw an interview online with Mo from Men on a Mission, who talks about this particular match. He said that Men on a Mission, they didn't even know they were portraying doinks until the day of the show when someone came into the locker room and said, all right, guys, get into makeup. And they said, makeup? What the hell do we need makeup for? Come to find out, they're being painted up as Doink the Clown. And they were told to come out here and construct ridiculous finishes for all of the eliminations in this match. They were told to come up with the most ridiculous way to pin your opponents, as this match was supposed to be treated as nothing more than comic relief. And it's unfortunate to see guys like Bam Bam Bigelow and the Head Shrinkers put into something like this. Does it work for Men on a Mission and the Bushwhackers? I suppose. Does it work for a comic relief character like Bastion Booger? Sure, he fits in here as well, but Bam Bam Bigelow and the Head Shrinkers, ugh. And I get putting Bigelow in here because, unfortunately, he's the one stuck feuding with Doink the Clown. But the Head Shrinkers, these guys have been murdering jobbers on TV for months. And now they're out here working a comedy match against 4 Doink the Clowns. And you also want to take note later in this match, Mo is going to get on a scooter. And Mo also talked about in that interview I just brought up that the scooter wheels were broken. So he's trying to pretend to ride the scooter, although the wheels don't work. So just more nonsense. And this match is Bastion Booger already laying it into, I think that's Butch, with a splash. Picks him right up. No, that's Luke. Luke down with a big splash by Bastion Booger. Luke Doink starting the match. You know you're in trouble when Luke is starting your match. Uh-oh, Luke biting the bum of Bastion Booger, who sells it as, well, exactly as you would expect. And now Butch to the eyes of Booger. And yes, and stomping the toes of poor Bastion. So if you ask for Vince McMahon comedy, you can only imagine the laughter we can hear from Vince McMahon. You can hear, I have this show on mute, and you can still hear Vince McMahon going, ha ha, this is great shit. As the Head Shrinker's now taking over on poor Bushwhacker Luke. And don't get me wrong, guys, I'm shitting all over the Bush. I can't stand them. My least favorite team during their era in the company, but I loved the Sheepherders. Everything I've seen from them in Portland to Memphis to Florida, everything they've ever done, all the way up to Crockett, the Mid-South. I love the Sheepherders. Great heel tag team. Just not a fan of anything they do here as the Bushwhackers. And let's face it, well, already 1, 2, 3. And just like that, Samu eliminated 3 minutes into the match with that schoolboy there. Unbelievable. As Fatu takes over on, well, no selling the Bushwhackers. And just like that, already one of the Head Shrinkers gone in this matchup. And Butch trying to headbutt Fatu, but it's Butch who takes the bump. Great spot there from Bushwhacker Butch. And Team Bigelow, can you imagine this? Team Bam Bam already down one of the Head Shrinkers 3 minutes into the match against a match involving Men on a Mission and the Bushwhackers. And it looks like Fatu, though, he may have the Bushwhackers well in hand here. I'd love to see those guys eliminated from this match. Butch looking for that tag. Luke knocked off the apron, so he's nowhere to be found. Maybe we'll get a little Mabel Doink. Oh, there's Luke. You can spot him. He's the only one with 2 teeth out there. Well, no, there's Bastion Booger as well. Speaking of Booger, tagged back in. Here's a match you never want to see. Bastion Booger going up against the Bushwhackers. As Booger drops the big leg. Let's just tag Mabel in and get it over with. Let's have Mabel come in and just run roughshod over the entire heel team here. Even Oscar out there, dressed up as Doink, equally scary. Here we go. Bam Bam Bigelow finally in the match. Maybe he'll put an end to this nonsense. But yeah, I just felt completely bummed out that we didn't get the real Doink in this match. That was the entire purpose of the feud. So Lawler yanked out of his feud, or his match against Bret the Hitman Hart. Now here, Doink. No payoff here between Doink and Bam Bam Bigelow. That feud will continue on all the way to WrestleMania 10 and beyond as far as the house shows go. Bigelow choking away now at Butch. As there's not a whole lot to say about this match. Lots of comedy finishes, as you'll see. And boom, snapping the neck of Butch across the top rope. And what do we got? Is Tim White out here? Tim White being the only match of the night for Tim White, I do believe. He gets stuck with this one. As Bastion Booger now going to slam Butch. Butch taking heat here. I don't even remember this. Oh, trip to the Batcave. It's a trip to the Batcave for Bushwhacker Butch. Can he drop his crotch onto the face? Boom! Balls to the face of Butch. But Booger doesn't go for the cover? No, instead he sees some leftover turkey, some bananas in the corner. Booger wants to eat. He doesn't want to win. Booger's stopping for a lunch break as he begins to eat a banana and now finally going to go back a second trip to the Batcave. Nope, but Mabel moves Butch out of the way and Booger misses his move, lands down hard on his knees, and the Bushwhackers, oh, battering ram. Banana goes flying out of the mouth of Bastion Booger. Mabel drops the big leg. 1, 2, 3. Oh my gosh, Mabel pins Bastion Booger. So we've seen the old schoolboy trip on Samu. Now Booger stops to eat a banana and misses his move, running into a battering ram. Banana's going flying everywhere. Now Bastion Booger still has part of the banana in his mouth. He hasn't even lost the food. He's still eating. Eating while he's being eliminated from the match. And it's down to just 2 men. Bam Bam Bigelow and Fatu up against 4 Doinks. And Butch just won't get out of the ring. Oh, Fatu offering up some turkey for Butch. And Butch going to take it. We've seen the Bushwhackers eat turkey before on the Survivor Series. We're going to go back to 89, but we've seen it. As Fatu lures Butch in, I can't believe I'm saying this, by offering him some turkey. And Butch falls for it. And Fatu takes over, smashing the turkey across the face of Butch. Yes, these things are actually happening, guys. Poor Afa stuck outside watching this nonsense. As Mo, here it is, randomly coming in. We get Fatu and Butch in the middle of the ring. And Mo, for no reason, riding around the ring on a scooter. The broken-wheeled scooter, as Mo would claim. And here he is riding a scooter around the ring while we have action. This feels like late 99, 2000 WCW. As Mo just, he won't get out of the ring. He's got a scooter. He's shaking his butt at Luna Vachon. And Fatu doesn't know what the hell is going on. And Bam Bam blasts Mo, looked like with a ghetto blaster, the Enziguri, to the back of Mo's head and trashes the scooter, laying Mo out. Maybe we'll find another tag not made here. Is Fatu with a backbreaker. Ooh, a nasty. No, had to go for a side slam. Mo couldn't even get up there. And Fatu throws a banana peel in the middle of the ring. Might regret that. Fatu going up top. And Bam Bam acting as Samu, standing in the corner. But Fatu off the top. Flying splash. That's it for Mo. Fatu makes the cover. No. Fatu stops now. Much like Booger, he sees the banana peel. Fatu showing the crowd, but I'm not really sure what's happening here. Fatu turns around and Butch going to throw a bucket of water on Fatu. There's nothing in the bucket. Fatu doesn't realize it. Fatu backing up. Butch throws Fatu slips on the banana peel. And Fatu eliminated after slipping on a banana peel. Holy shit. What are we doing here, guys? And Bam Bam Bigelow is hot. Bam Bam takes over, and hell, he can eliminate the Bushwhackers and Mo all by himself. Mabel, I don't know about, but I'd love to see Bigelow clean house here on the Bushwhackers and Mo. I'll tell you that much. As Bigelow is doing as such, toss both Bushwhackers out of the ring, and Mo now in with Bammer as he runs over Mo as well. Bigelow has had enough of this clowning around, pun intended. Bigelow clears the ring of 3 members of the opposing Doink team, but he turns around. Oh! And there's Mabel waiting for Bam Bam Bigelow. And I don't think we've seen a tag by the baby faces since this match has started. They just come in. It's like lucha rules on the babyface side of things. As Mabel now in after Bam Bam disposes of the other 3 men like the shit that they are. Sorry, guys, but when you're up against Bam Bam Bigelow, the Bushwhackers and Mo stand no chance. Mabel, on the other hand, well, Bam Bam can't seem to move. The biggest doink of them all. And Mabel looking on, challenging Bammer. Try to knock me off my feet, Bam Bam Bigelow. And that's what Bam Bam will try to do here. And he's having no success, even moving Mabel, not even budging the big guy. And finally, Bigelow, oh, it's Mabel who tackles Bigelow instead. And the crowd getting behind Mabel here as he hammers away on Bigelow. Unbelievable match, guys. Slipping on banana peels, guys eating bananas in the match. Samu, the old schoolboy trip. Scooters being ridden around the ring in the middle of a wrestling match. And Mabel misses the avalanche in the corner. Might be time for Bigelow to capitalize. Bigelow off the ropes with a shoulder tackle. Finally drops big Mabel. Butch comes in. He eats a slam as well. And Bigelow covers Butch, who clearly didn't tag him, but the referee going to count anyway. This referee has given up a long time ago. Tim White just counting everything. Bigelow in the corner, distracted, and men on a mission hit the double avalanche. And Mabel with the big splash, and all 4 doinks cover Bam Bam Bigelow's stockpile of men, Bushwhackers, men on a mission. Mabel on the bottom. And the 4 doinks will get the win over poor Bam Bam Bigelow in just 10 minutes and 56 seconds. 11 minutes match? Whew, about 10 minutes too long. Poor Bam Bam Bigelow laying there. Something caught his eye in the corner, distracted. He began talking to Luna Vachon, and the men on a mission nailed their double avalanche to the back of Bigelow, and then Mabel, that big splash. And if that wasn't enough, Mo and the Bushwhackers pile on top. And the 4 doinks not only get the win, but all 4 doinks, unbelievable, survive here at this Survivor Series. Bam Bam Bigelow made a fool of yet again by Doink the Clown. No longer Matt Bourne, but it is Ray Apollo. As Bam Bam slowly getting up, Luna consoling her main squeeze. And Ray Apollo has made a fool of his buddy Bam Bam Bigelow. And I think we're going to pick up some Doink commentary here on the video wall as Bam Bam Bigelow prepares to exit the ring. So let's pick that up.
Against the Foreign Fanatics, right here on the Survivor Series, and a big man like Bam Bam still smarting as a result of
3-on-1.
Wait, 4-on-1. I mean,
or 8-on-1 if you count Mabel.
Figure up the poundages. What would you say Mabel weighs?
3.5 tons.
Well,
I'd say 500 pounds.
500 pounds. All right. Each bushwhacker must weigh about 250 when you say.
Right. There's
that's another 500. The only one who didn't pile on was Oscar. We had Mo.
Hey, that's it.
Hey, wait a minute.
You big dummy, Bam Bam. Up here. Look.
That's the real Doink.
So, tell me, did you like Doink Butch? Whoa! What about Doink Luke? Yay! What's that? You're burned up.
He's burned up, all right.
What? Bam Bam, don't get mad. I was only clowning around. But seriously, you shouldn't get mad. After all, I sent you a nice sandwich. Doink Mo and Doink Mabel. Come on, flame brain. Don't get upset. It's Thanksgiving.
Having a big laugh. It's Doink the Clown.
Hey, Luna, look up at the screen.
Uh-oh.
Well, Doink having a blast here in the Boston Garden.
Well, that match was what it was, but Doink making an ass out of Bam Bam Bigelow there as we go backstage as Todd Pettengill standing by with the Foreign Fanatics and their managers Johnny Polo and Jim Cornette.
Fanatics contingency on this American Eve, Thanksgiving after all, the celebration of America and all the victories that we've had in this country. And quite simply, your denigration policy across this country at this time specifically was not very well planned, Jim.
Pettingill, first of all, you don't know the meaning of half of those words that you just spit out of your mouth. You were looking them up all night in Funkin' Wagnalls. Second of all, we haven't denigrated anybody. We're upholding a fine American tradition. Be winners at any cost, and that's exactly what we are. We're winners, and we do anything to win. And thirdly, there's a fine old American tradition, carving up a turkey on Thanksgiving Eve, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to carve up 4 of them. Now, everybody's been asking, everybody's been wondering since this match was announced, what is your strategy? How are you going to fight the All-Americans? You're going to divide and conquer? You're going to mount a frontal assault, an all-out attack? Well, let me just say this. We've sat down and we've thought about this. The All-Americans, we look at them like one man because they fight together, they stand together, they think as one. They're a unit. So how do you take a man out? Well, you can go for the mind, you can go for the heart, or you can go for the soul. Now, the heart of the All-Americans is the Steiner brothers. They got a never-say-die attitude. They'll fight to the end. But you give a blow to the heart, it can be devastating. Now, the mind is the Undertaker's. Because after all, he's the master of fear, the master of psychology, the master of the psych-out. But if you take away a man's mind, he's confused, he's disoriented, and you can easily take him out. But then there's the soul. And the soul of the All-Americans is Lex Luger.
Team captain Lex Luger.
Shut up, Pettingill. He's the embodiment of the American dream, the spirit to succeed, victory against the odds. Lex Luger is the soul of the All-Americans. And when you capture a man's soul, then you've defeated him once and for all. And tonight, that's going to be our strategy. Mind, heart, and soul. The All-Americans are going down in the Boston Garden tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, on Thanksgiving Eve, in the middle of the foreign contingency, coming up next, it's the clash of the superpowers. Let's get back to Vince and Bobby ringside.
Well, thank you very much, Todd Pettengill. Maybe we're going to have a real matchup here momentarily, Bobby Heenan.
You know, as I watched the eyes of LUDVIG BORGA, and I looked into Yokozuna's eyes, and listened to what Cornette had to say, and looked at the determination on Crush and how Mr. Fuji has the Foreign Fanatics ready, it's safe to say that the history of Boston Gardens, the flags hang high from the Bruins, from the Celtics. The Boston Gardens will never be the same.
All right, and away we go. It's time for the main event of the night here at the Survivor Series pay-per-view, and out first comes LUDVIG BORGA. They probably made a wise call. They're just having Jim Cornette cut the promo, getting in this match as serious as they possibly could. Johnny Polo typically turns everything into a comedy bit. LUDVIG BORGA, it's the same old, I'm going to break your back, Lex Luger. Nothing wrong with that, but not really needed here right before the match. And Crush just kind of sat that promo out as well. But remember, Crush is out here replacing Quebecer Pierre BORGA, the first in the ring. Out next, I'm assuming we're going to see Quebecer Jacques, maybe Crush, somebody on their way out next, as the Foreign Fanatics entering one by one. And we're finally going to see on TV Lex Luger. We're hoping to see Lex Luger get his hands on LUDVIG BORGA. They've been all throughout the house show circuit, and I actually had the luxury or maybe the disadvantage of watching one of those matches, Lex Luger taking on LUDVIG BORGA. It was the night that I realized that LUDVIG BORGA, maybe he wasn't all that, because as a teenager, as a young teen, when you saw that guy, what a look did LUDVIG BORGA had. You just believed this guy was going to kick somebody's ass. And everything he ever did on TV, I bought into it. Unfortunately, I was at the house show where he wrestled Lex Luger, and Lex Luger's certainly not going to be the guy to up Borga's game. So by the time that match was over with, I was done. I still supported the LUDVIG BORGA heel character. I still was big into him as a top heel in the company. But at the same time, I realized he's not very good in the ring. And that's all it took was watching him live against Lex Luger. As Jacques Rougeau and Johnny Polo out, they're winning this match, they state, for Quebecer Pierre sitting at home after being knocked out of this pay-per-view by Lex Luger. And there he is, Crush, making his way down next. Recently turned heel on his former best friend, the Macho Man Randy Savage. And we saw Crush come out earlier in the opening match and distract Randy Savage long enough for the Macho Man to be eliminated. Savage went backstage chasing after Crush, but apparently he hasn't found him quite yet. And out next, it's Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji with the WWF champion Yokozuna. And Yoko out, he's the captain of the Foreign Fanatic team. They're going to be taking on the All-Americans, of course, led by team captain Lex Luger, the Undertaker, who is replacing Native American Tatanka, and the newest names announced for this year's WWE Hall of Fame, Rick and Scott, the Steiner brothers. Congratulations, guys. You deserve it. Only Scott Steiner can threaten to murder people and still find his way into the Hall of Fame in the same company. As we get ready for main event action, this was actually billed as a double main event. The Hart match, Bret Hart versus, Lawler and his Knights, was initially scheduled to be one of the main events. Of course, that got changed to Shawn Michaels. And here it is, the other main event. Lex Luger's been built up so hard since July 4th, all the way into SummerSlam, as the quote-unquote next Hulk Hogan, is the top draw here moving forward in the WWF. But at this point, they've kind of let things subside. They've even announced Bret Hart as the 1993 Superstar of the Year, believe it or not. And we'll see that introduction or that announcement. We were supposed to get that big announcement here as part of the Survivor Series pay-per-view. All the way up to the pay-per-view, they were selling it as such. We're going to learn who the Superstar of the Year was here at the 1993 Survivor Series, but instead, they save it for Monday Night Raw. I don't know what changed there, but we will find out. I already announced, I already let the cat out of the bag, but you guys will see what goes along with that when we kick off next week's episode of the Wrestling Memory Grenade, episode 55, as The Undertaker makes his way out. I bet the inner lining is no longer covered in the colony American flag, the 13 colonies American flag, no longer in the lining of the Undertaker's coat, as he claims his dog ate it. Perfectly ate the flag out of the coat, did no damage to the coat. I don't know about that, Mark. And there's another man going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year, is The Undertaker. So we have The Undertaker and the Steiners Team Hall of Fame. If only they would allow Lex Luger to enter the Hall of Fame. Vince possibly still holding that grudge with Luger from all the way back in 1995 when he jumped over to WCW. I don't know. But Luger's still not part of that WWE Hall of Fame, but he is part of the All-Americans here. As this match gets ready to go fairly shortly, Undertaker taking his time getting to the ring, nothing new there. Hopefully the walk from the to the ring is part of the WWE Hall of Fame, not nearly as long. But here we go, the Steiner brothers making their way out. Rick and Scott, they haven't done a whole lot since the suspension right after SummerSlam. We know the Steiners were forced to drop the tag team titles to the Quebecers, and since that time, they've been suspended off the house shows for about 6 weeks, although they've been making the TV tapings, and the Steiners still in the hunt to regain those tag team titles from the Quebecers. Now, we know that never happens. Very unfortunate, and you have to wonder who the Steiners would have lost to, how long they would have been champions had they not been forced to drop the belts after SummerSlam after failing the drug test. And out comes team captain Lex Luger, who has been fizzling since SummerSlam. Now, you can blame a lot of that on the count-out win as part of the pay-per-view. I certainly do. But they really haven't done a whole lot with him since then. Luger out all of September with a back injury, and then when he comes back, he's paired with Ludwig Borga, but we see very little from the two other than a few words exchanged on TV over the course of the last couple months. And here's the big payoff between the two, if you will. We're finally going to see the showdown here between Luger and Ludwig Borga in portions of this match. And be grateful it's only portions of this match. You don't want to see these guys go one-on-one. Take it from me. Although there is a match of theirs out there. I believe it was released on a DVD somewhere. I don't think it was the Hidden Gems. I think it was on a DVD. But here we go. It's time, guys, for the main event. It's all Americans and Foreign Fanatics, everybody in the ring, and we are all ready to go. There it is, the American flag, sitting ringside. In the front rows, the Undertaker and Yokozuna going nose to nose. The Undertaker, the next challenger for Yokozuna. In actuality, already working him on the house shows in singles matches and casket matches. In the singles matches, it's Undertaker going over on Yoko on disqualifications every night. Yoko getting in trouble, so he's using the salt bucket to hit the Undertaker, and actually, and I stand corrected, Yokozuna scoring pins over the Undertaker, now that I remember, hitting the Undertaker with the salt bucket multiple times and dropping the leg and scoring pinfalls over the Undertaker in other matches, casket matches. On the house shows, it's the Undertaker going over, but they are non-title. Now that'll all change with the announcement of the main event heavyweight title match, the WWF title match, as part of the upcoming 1994 Royal Rumble, and we'll hear more about that in next week's episode of The Grenade. But for now, here we are, Yokozuna and the Undertaker. It was several weeks ago, Jim Cornette went out on TV and said there's nobody left for the Yokozuna to defeat. There's nobody left for the champion to beat. He's beaten them all. There's nothing left for him to do here in the WWF, and that's when the challenge was made by the Undertaker and Paul Bearer. They popped up on the stage, and Undertaker issued that verbal challenge for Yokozuna and his title, and since that time, we haven't done a whole lot on TV between the two, but we will finally see the two come to blows here at the Survivor Series. And so that's why it was very necessary to substitute Tatanka out for the Undertaker here. And the only reason I feel bad for Tatanka heading into this thing is he had to lose that undefeated streak in means to get Ludwig Borga over. They thought it would get Borga over to the next level by ending that streak of Tatanka and Borga being able to being looked at as a main event heel. And like I said, only a couple months from now, that'll be the end of Ludwig Borga here in the WWF as he suffers an ankle injury, falls out of shape, doesn't really have the interest in returning, according to Bruce Pritchard, and goes back home to go work over in Europe. So Tony Halm, Ludwig Borga, not long for the WWF. I guess you can say he'll be finished. See what I did there? 2 N's. Finished. He's from Finland. Never mind. Match gets going as the Steiners working over Jacques Rougeau. Luger taking Pierre out of the match in favor of Crush. And we know Macho Man already here, so maybe he'll make himself known. Much like Crush did earlier in the night, maybe we'll see the Macho Man before this match is over. I don't think the Macho Man is a guy who's going to just stand in the middle of the aisle, however, so we may see some physicality before the pay-per-view ends between Macho Man and Crush, but right now it's Rick Steiner and Yokozuna. A bit of a dream match here for me. We got to see just a taste of this on board the USS Intrepid when Rick Steiner nailed the Steiner line on Yokozuna and tried to go for a belly-to-belly to no avail. Something about this match just intrigues me. Yokozuna and Rick Steiner. It looks really cool, standing across the ring from one another. And Yokozuna, the fans chanting USA, USA, as you can see, as Yokozuna looks around before taking over on the Dogface Greenland. I love the singlets here by the Steiner brothers. Scott Steiner rocking the stars and bars, and Rick Steiner rocking the blue singlet with the white stars, representing the USA. And a really cool gimmick, or a singlets here by the Steiner brothers, as Rick Steiner trying to knock Yokozuna off his feet, flying shoulder tackles. It takes 3 of them, but it sends Yokozuna through the ropes and out to the floor. And Yoko right back up on the apron, not happy as Rick Steiner running around barking, getting the crowd into this. Rick Steiner knocking the WWF champion off his feet early in the match. And the Steiners, no strangers to the Samoan family, the Anoa'i dynasty, as the Steiners worked the SSTs quite a bit back in 1989 NWA. We called that in early episodes of The Grenade. And here, even in 1993, the Steiners have had some matches with the Head Shrinkers as well. And of course, Rodney, Yokozuna, part of that family. So while portraying a Japanese wrestler here, Yokozuna really part of that Samoan dynasty, as I'm sure most of you know by now. Ludwig Borga celebrating knocking Rick Steiner down, but he doesn't realize Rick is already on the top rope waiting, and Rick Steiner takes Borga off his feet for a near fall. Rick Steiner doing all the dirty work early on here for the All-Americans. And Borga with those nasty body blows, those nasty gut punches and rib shots right back on top. And let's see what we got going on here. We know the Steiners will not continue their feud with the Quebecers very much longer beyond this. The Steiners kind of just get lost in the shuffle after the Survivor Series here, to be honest with you. Oh, man, it looks like Borga. Well, this may 1, 2, 3. Rick Steiner coming off the top rope. Looked like he was launching into a crossbody. Borga attempted to turn into a power slam, but Ludwig just too far away, and the entire move gets mistimed. Rick actually lands the body press of sorts, and Borga kind of pivots it over into a power slam once they hit the mat. But it's enough to take Rick Steiner out. Would have made for an awesome pinfall there had the move actually gone down as planned. Luger on the outside checking on Rick Steiner as Rick eliminated from the match, eliminated by Ludwig Borga. And Rick actually going to get a chance to avenge his elimination here against Ludwig Borga when he takes on Borga at Madison Square Garden, upcoming in January of 1994. That'll be Borga's last match in the WWF. Boy, does Rick get his revenge on Ludwig Borga, breaking the ankle of Borga after the match, accidentally, as they're fighting up the aisleway, and Borga's done with the company after that. It's reported he would be coming back at WrestleMania 10 to wrestle the Earthquake, of all guys. What a match that would have been. But unfortunately, Borga never returns. Adam Bomb winds up replacing him at WrestleMania, and we never see Ludwig Borga again. Also causes him to miss Royal Rumble, which is where Tatanka was supposed to come back and get his revenge on Scott Steiner with a nice press slam here on Jacques Rougeau. But Borga was supposed to wrestle Tatanka at the upcoming Royal Rumble. Scotty throws Jacques Rougeau, who is not a small man, into the arms of Crush, but Crush catches him and sits him down, showing the power of one Brian Adams, a.k.a. Crush here. Jacques Rougeau mocking Scott Steiner, who didn't get the best of him. Crush will continue his feud with the Macho Man. They'll go at it in the Royal Rumble match in 94, and then, of course, culminate at WrestleMania 10 Falls Count Anywhere match. So we know where Crush is headed. Borga gone from the company. The Quebecers will wind up, just kind of flailing around as tag team champions. Don't get me wrong, they're fun as hell and great promos, but they wind up wrestling Men on a Mission at WrestleMania. Shortly after that, they drop the belts to the Head Shrinkers, and then it's no more Quebecers as Jacques Rougeau leaves the company yet again. We all know Yokozuna goes into the Royal Rumble to take on The Undertaker. Now, where they go from there, you guys know the co-winners. And that's where it takes us to Lex Luger as he co-wins the Royal Rumble along with Bret the Hitman Hart. So that's what happens in the early part of 94. You might say, Ray, why are you spoiling all of that now? Well, Scott Steiner looking for the double underhook powerbomb on Crush. I don't know if Crush is going to allow this. You can't stop Scott Steiner. He's going to do what he wants to do. And there it is. Takes the big Hawaiian down with the double underhook powerbomb. Very impressive. Scott makes it look easy against the guy the size of Crush and a Steiner lighter. If you ask Vince McMahon, takes Crush back to the mat. But the reason I'm telling you all of this about 1994 is because, guys, next week, I got to remind you, it's the final episode of The Grenade here in 1993, and we're not moving on to 1994. No, in fact, we're going back all the way back to 1987 as our next project here on The Grenade in just a few weeks. So stay tuned for that. 1987 in the World Wrestling Federation as Crush kicks the face of Scott Steiner right off and takes over on the Steiner. But here we go. And there's Bart Gunn getting on the page. We see a bunch of officials in the aisleway holding the Macho Man back, and they throw Bart Gunn a bone. They let Bart Gunn out here to hold him back as well. We see there's Dave Hebner, Tony Gurria, Rene Goulet, all the usual suspects, and Bart Gunn randomly out here holding the Macho Man back. Blackjack Lanza, Billy Red Lions, the other referees we've seen here tonight, all holding back Pat Patterson, of course, and Bart Gunn randomly in that mix. Not Billy, because Billy got to work the dark match, but Bart Gunn getting something to do. Come on, guys, give me something to do. Bart Gunn getting to be a part of this main event as they all hold Randy Savage back. They all pull Randy Savage back through the curtain. The Macho Man tries to make his way out. Where were they when Crush came out? Randy Savage looking for revenge. Had time to change, though, and Crush working over Scott Steiner. He was briefly distracted there by the Macho Man, but the officials managed to force Randy Savage back through those curtains. So Crush right back on top in this matchup. Drops a big leg across the throat of Scott Steiner. And the Hawaiian has dominated here. Scott Steiner, who's selling his knee for some odd reason. And Mr. Fuji trying to get the crowd to chant USA again by waving that Japanese flag in their face. And Crush here just keeping Scott Steiner down on the mat. Lots of generic plotting offense, lots of stomping and kicking. That was the problem with the Crush character. As cool as he looked, he just couldn't get it done in the ring. And then the bell rang, as they say. And never a great promo either, but Crush just no personality in the ring. Lots of boring offense, stomping, kicking, choking, the old head vice, and now he's working a form of the spinning toe hold here is Crush. As he continues to work over the leg of Scott Steiner, not exactly a fun bit of offense in the middle of a Survivor Series match. There should never be dead time like this in the middle of a match featuring 7-8 guys out there. And we know Rick Steiner's gone. Right now, the Foreign Fanatics outnumber the All-Americans 4-3. But I can't help but wonder, are we going to see the Macho Man again? That just doesn't feel like it's the end of Randy Savage here. If there's anything Macho Man is, it's persistent. And speaking of which, here he comes again, the Macho Man back out here. In fact, let's pick up the audio. Let's hear the fans in support of the Macho Man.
To the ring. Crush. Why are they holding Savage back?
Drop kick by the Steiner. Crush to the outside. And Crush looks up and Randy Savage is going for it. Wait a minute. Crush is going for Randy Savage's back is turned.
All right, so Randy Savage manages to distract Crush as he tries to get to the ring. There's Bart Gunn again. Crush trying to do what he did, and Savage not going to let him. Very cool spot there, but Crush distracted by Savage, allowing Scott Steiner to drop kick Crush out of the ring, and rather than getting back in the ring, he goes running down the aisle after the Macho Man, and Crush attacks Savage, picks him up over his head, gorilla press. We've seen it before. That's what caused the lacerated tongue when he dropped Savage across the barricade. Crush tries for it again there, but Randy Savage escapes and lays out Crush in the aisle, and Crush now counted out. Crush eliminated from the match. And there he is trying to make his way back to the ring. He doesn't realize what's happening, or maybe he does. It's Earl Hebner telling him, hey man, I counted at 10. You're done. Hit the bricks, buddy. Crush wanting back in the match, but no, you're eliminated. Counted out is Crush. And it makes sense, your monster heel. You don't want him to take a pin like Savage did earlier in the show. So in this instance, the countout makes sense for me. Crush eliminated, and we're back to even 3-on-3. It's Yokozuna, LUDVIG BORGA, and Jacques Rougeau. On the other side, it's Lex Luger, Scott Steiner, and The Undertaker, who we have yet to see tag into the match. And Jacques Rougeau working over Scott Steiner. It was Scott Steiner who accidentally cost his team the titles, the Quebec Province Rules match on Raw, when Steiner was caught using Johnny Polo's hockey stick after Polo came to ringside to show his new alliance is becoming the new manager of the Quebecers. He tried to toss Jacques the hockey stick, but Scott Steiner took it away. He was the one caught using it. The Steiners were disqualified, and under Quebec Province rules, which we haven't seen since, the Quebecers were awarded the tag team titles on a DQ. And since that time, Scott Steiner has pinned Pierre. We've seen Rick Steiner pin Jacques. Both Steiners have beaten the Quebecers, and they still haven't been given that important title rematch, at least not on TV. As Scott Steiner with a big press slam on Jacques Rougeau, and maybe, finally, it might be time to tag out Scotty. Crawling to the corner, and finally gets the tag out to Made in the USA. Look at that team. Lex Luger, Scott Steiner, and The Undertaker. Then on the other side, Yokozuna and LUDVIG BORGA. Look at the names involved here. And the match still really not all that over, at least not until The Undertaker gets in the ring, as Luger looking to come off the middle rope with a forearm. And it's not a protective pad there. 1, 2, 3. Wow, just like that. Lex Luger defeats Jacques Rougeau. 14 minutes, 4 seconds. Luger off the middle rope, dropping the forearm across the steel-plated forearm across the head of Quebecer Jacques. And the representation of the Quebecers has been eliminated from this match. So now it's down to 3-on-2, and the All-Americans in the lead. And I don't like the odds of any heel team when they're down an entire wrestler, when they're looking across the ring at Scott Steiner, Lex Luger, and of course The Undertaker. And LUDVIG BORGA, he doesn't look scared at all, and he wants Lex Luger, it looks like, in the ring. And I'm not shocked whatsoever that LUDVIG BORGA is showing no fear at getting in the ring with any of these men. Though I got to be honest, I'm kind of intrigued to see BORGA and The Undertaker. I don't think that happens here, but that would have been kind of cool to see how BORGA would have sold for the dead man. But BORGA inviting Lex Luger into the ring, telling Lex to tag in, even holding the rope open for him, taunting Luger, but for some reason, Lex won't tag in. What's that about? And instead, we're getting Ludwig Borga and Scott Steiner yet again here. As Borga works over the ribcage of Scott. Scott taking the beating for his team. And Borga nails the lariat of sorts on Scott Steiner, wiping him out. And Scott Steiner may be in trouble if he can't tag out. Scotty has, the Undertaker hasn't been in at all. Luger came in, dropped a forearm, and he tagged right back. Oh, Stinger splash. Great agility there by Ludwig Borga. Oh. And just clotheslined the face off of Scott Steiner. You'd have to think he's going to pay for that. And Borga ascending the top rope. We've seen him do the clothesline off here before, but Scott Steiner catches him. And what's Scotty going to do? We've seen these two on Raw go one-on-one in a hell of a match. It's Scott Steiner looking for a superplex. Off the top rope launches Borga. 2/3 of the way across the ring, but Yokozuna in to stop the count. But I was going to say, we saw Scott Steiner and Ludwig Borga. Borga's only good match here in the WWF. And it was a really good match as the two just beat the living piss out of each other. They both probably really enjoyed that. Scott Steiner versus Ludwig Borga. Borga even suffered a bloody nose during that matchup. But Yokozuna now in. He didn't tag in, but I guess that's what we're doing here tonight. Yokozuna in now with Scott Steiner as Borga simply rolls out of the ring. Yoko, though, misses the big elbow. And Scotty calling for the Frankensteiner. I got to see this on Yokozuna. Oh, but Yoko holds the ropes. And Scotty comes down hard on the back of that head. Yoko dropping the big leg across the neck of Scott Steiner. 2, 3. And the Steiner brothers both out now of the match. Scott Steiner eliminated 16 minutes, 57 seconds. And Yokozuna manages to bring this thing back to 2-on-2. And Lex Luger waiting to see if the Undertaker's going to... Nope, Luger says, all right, fine, I'll get back in the ring. Lex Luger checking on Scott Steiner. And Yokozuna already looks gassed after just a couple of moves. He's resting across the top rope as he doesn't realize Lex Luger is in the ring waiting for him. Yoko's got his troubles with both guys. Luger, the only man to slam Yokozuna up until this point and almost beat him for the belt at SummerSlam. And then on the other end, it's the Undertaker. So either way, Yokozuna going to have his hands full and Luger in the ring. So we're still biding time. We're still selling the confrontation between Yoko and the Undertaker here. The Undertaker has yet to tag into the match. They're saving him for last, I suppose, as Yoko and Luger trade slaps. And it looks like the champion going to take over. Luger with a terrible bump there. Ugh. Lex Luger just phoning it in, if you ask me, since he's been back since SummerSlam. I don't know if that just discouraged him or what the deal was, but Lex Luger just not really into it. Not really into his promos, not really into his matches. Just not doing a whole lot for me or the fans here at the end of 1993. But Yokozuna taking over on Mr. Made in the USA, who will, I shit you not, once again, find himself in a WWF Championship match with Yokozuna by WrestleMania time, even though they did sign the contract with the clause at SummerSlam stating Lex won't get the shot. Well, it all pans out, although Luger still never manages to win the WWF title. Luger fires back after Yoko misses a splash, and he's trying to knock the big guy down, but Yokozuna counters, and it's one simple clothesline by Yokozuna sends Lex back down to the mat. As things are breaking down to the nitty-gritty, to quote Gorilla Monsoon, only 10 minutes left in the show, so you got to know this match will be over soon. Who is yet to be eliminated? Who is going to survive this Survivor Series? As we get Borga and Luger, the match you guys have been waiting for. Oh, Luger with a nice little tuck and somersault roll to sell that gut shot from Ludwig Borga. Oh, Lex. And Borga with a punt kick to the ribs of Mr. USA. Borga's selling it big as he comes after. We got Lex Luger rocking the American flag on his trunks and the Finnish flag all over the singlet of Ludwig Borga. I never knew we were at war with Finland until Ludwig Borga came onto the scene here in the WWF. Only in the WWF can Vince McMahon make you believe that you're in wars with Finland, with Canada, only in the WWF. And only Vince McMahon could come up with this stuff. As the heels now double teaming Lex Luger. Still waiting for that big hot tag to the Undertaker. Hey, the guy's got to, at the very least, even if he doesn't win the match, the Undertaker has to be eliminated, right? So you have to figure we're going to see The Undertaker in the ring at some point. Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing? Yokozuna just working over USA, Mr. USA, Lex Luger on the mat. And I'm running out of things to say here, as you guys might can tell. And it's just dead time in the match as well. Yokozuna going to maybe look for the butt avalanche here in the corner on Luger. It looks like, yep, Yoko's setting him up. Going to run across the length of the ring, 20 feet with the flying butt avalanche. No, he went for the splash in the corner. Look for the regular avalanche, and Yokozuna misses. Luger slowly crawling across the ring as the Undertaker stretches his arm out, and the Undertaker, look at the crowd come alive. Quite possibly far more alive than they were for Lex Luger here, as they are for the Undertaker on their feet, raising their hands on that hot tag, as the Undertaker counters the backdrop with a DDT and slowly sits up the Undertaker in full control of the WWF champion. It only took 20-some minutes to get the Undertaker into the ring. It seems like about 20 minutes, I think, before the Undertaker finally tagged in. But he's going to work here on the WWF champion, and he's trying to drop Yokozuna, but Yoko not going down yet. BORGA with a cheap shot from the apron, but the Undertaker no-sells it and sends BORGA flying off the apron. But it's enough to distract Undertaker long enough for Yokozuna there with a belly-to-belly. Yoko going to try to put the Undertaker away, it would appear. Taker is down from that. Oh, sits back up. Yet again does the Undertaker. Yokozuna can't believe it. Sits up from the belly-to-belly, but right back down. And right back up. Nope. Oh, the Undertaker sent down with a clothesline. He starts to sit up, and in mid-sit-up, Yokozuna drops the leg across his head. Awesome spot there by these two. And it appears now Yoko has Taker down for the count, dragging him over to the corner. And you know what's next, guys. Perhaps it's time for the Banzai drop. The same move that has taken out Tatanka and the Macho Man in recent weeks. And now Yoko looking to do it to the Undertaker here. Will the Undertaker sit up? No, there it is. It connects. Banzai drop. And for some reason, Earl Hebner not making the count, but that's okay. Yokozuna not covering. Yokozuna back up. Looks like he wants to go for a second one. Yokozuna climbing again a second time, struggling to get to that middle rope. But here, second Banzai. Oh my gosh. The Undertaker sits up, escapes the Banzai, and boy, did Yoko miss him. By inches. By inches, I'm talking. We almost had a broken-necked Undertaker there as Taker comes back, flying clothesline. Sends Yokozuna down, and Yoko rolling out of the ring. He wants no more part of the Undertaker. Yoko trying to run away, and we're outside. Yoko sends Taker into the steel steps, and Undertaker no-sells. Look at the snapped head of Yokozuna in fear, and the snapped head of the Undertaker as he rams Yoko into the steel steps. But you gotta be shitting me. Referee Earl Hebner has counted both guys out of the ring. Yoko and the Undertaker eliminated, but the big story here is the Undertaker can handle Yokozuna sitting up after a Banzai drop. No selling a Banzai drop. And then on the outside, no selling the steel steps. And you saw the fear in the eyes of Yokozuna when he realized, holy shit, what am I getting into the ring with here? And the Undertaker, and these guys having to be separated. But the real story left in this match is LUDVIG BORGA and Lex Luger. The two have been feuding since the end of SummerSlam. Remember the post-SummerSlam altercation in the locker room we saw on TV on the Coliseum video version? BORGA challenging Lex Luger. Luger represents America. Well, he's going to break the back of America when he breaks the back of the total package. And here we go. LUDVIG BORGA with a mighty low side slam. Luger really didn't get up for that. Not surprised. And it only gets a 2 count. But these guys have been feuding now for most of the last, 3 months. And this is our payoff between the two. We don't get to see the house show finish on TV, which is Lex Luger going over every night with the forearm to the head of LUDVIG BORGA. So here on Survivor Series, this is the payoff, guys. So enjoy it. LUDVIG BORGA with the side slam, the delayed suplex, using all of his signature moves on the former total package, but he can't seem to keep him down for the 3 count. Luger again kicks out at 2 as LUDVIG BORGA stalks him. And it could be all it. LUDVIG BORGA maybe looking for, what's he going for here? A power slam. Takes Luger back to the mat. BORGA pinfall after pinfall attempt, and every time fails to hook the leg, and every time Luger out at the count of 2. And BORGA runs him right back over, sends him back. Luger's starting to pop up. BORGA taking him down, and he's down for the count this time. It looked like Luger was starting to come around, but to no avail. BORGA continues on with the offense, and it looks like another suplex. Nope, Luger going to counter this time. Luger countering BORGA's vertical suplex with one of his own. Lex Luger being forced to bust out a wrestling hold. Here as Lex Luger performs a suplex, of all things, on Ludwig BORGA. And maybe we're going to see the comeback. Maybe we're going to try to mount a comeback here. Luger ducks the clothesline, and double clothesline, and neither guy really wanted to go down. Struggling, terrible double clothesline bump by both guys. And Lex Luger specifically. And both guys down on the mat. But Jim Cornette and Fuji still ringside because they do manage the team. Hey, Johnny Polo out. We got all 3 managers. I didn't even realize their men eliminated. BORGA, the only one without a manager, and they're all still ringside. Polo and Cornette distracting Earl Hebner, allowing Mr. Fuji to sneak in the salt bucket, and BORGA blasts it across the head of Lex Luger. Will Ludwig BORGA get a pinfall win over Lex Luger right here on pay-per-view? Luger out cold from the salt bucket shot, and the referee counting both men down. BORGA's going to have to roll over and try to make the cover, and he's finally doing so. 1, 2, Luger out at the last split second. Luger firing up. He's up on his feet in the corner. He's fighting back. Luger has a second wind, unloading on BORGA. Several right hands, shooting BORGA into the ropes. What are we going to see here? Lex Luger with a gut punch, and BORGA takes a back bump. Not really pretty, guys. Lex Luger doesn't know what to do. So what do? The old 2000 Indies spot. Yes, a DDT out of nowhere by Lex Luger, of all people. And Luger with a back elbow. Just a lot of generic offense here. Lex doing the basic moves, trying to put away Ludwig BORGA, who's still kicking out. And where are the 3 managers now? They're not coming into play. BORGA, mistimed spot there, miscue. Very sloppy stuff between these two. And they've been working every night on the house shows, guys. As a miscommunicated Irish whip sees BORGA barely go into the ropes. A nasty looking body slam. And I don't mean dangerous looking. I just mean ugly. Luger shot into the ropes again. Leapfrogs Ludwig BORGA. And boom, there it is. The flying forearm. The steel-plated forearm. 1, 2, 3. And we are mercifully let out of this match. Lex Luger picks up the win with the steel-plated forearm to the head of Ludwig BORGA. Just like that, Lex Luger pins the Finnish Hellraiser from Helsinki. Ludwig BORGA eliminated from the Survivor Series. The All-Americans win. Lex Luger, the sole survivor, as we see him raise the American flag over his head, waving it high. Old Glory, as Vince McMahon loved to refer to it. Lex Luger will survive this Survivor Series, defeating the evil Foreign Fanatics in the process as snow begins to fall from the top of the Boston Garden, and out comes Santa Claus. It's old Santy on his way to the ring. Santa Claus out with a bag of goodies for all the girls and boys, perhaps. Would like to have seen Santa turn here on Lex Luger. Call him out for the man he really was in this point in time in his life. Lex Luger, they're going to help old Santa back into the ring. We saw Santa last year at the Richfield Coliseum celebrating with Bret Hart. Well, here he is again, this time celebrating with Lex Luger. Let's close out the Survivor Series. Let's listen to old Santa and Luger in the ring.
Have a nice Thanksgiving. So long, everybody. Darn it.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. Right into the finish of the pay-per-view. Lex Luger gets the win. Cue Santa Claus, jingle bells playing over their loudspeakers, snow falling from the sky, and we're moving on to Christmas, it would appear, right past Thanksgiving. So the Survivor Series 93 in the books, guys. And the total time of the main event, 28 minutes and 2 seconds. And there it is. Lex Luger will survive the main event of the Survivor Series. And you may wonder why, just after so many weeks after defeating Tatanka, ending the Native Americans' undefeated streak, why they would job BORGA out here to Lex Luger right here on the pay-per-view. Well, they were kind of stuck in a situation where they had to. Remember, Crush got counted out, and then The Undertaker and Yokozuna got counted out. Somebody had to be pinned in order for Luger to survive, and it made the most sense for that to be Ludwig BORGA. Now, Bruce Pritchard has claimed Ludwig BORGA had 3 things getting his way here from succeeding as a main event heel. And those were, A, he was a miserable prick. B, limited ability in the ring. And C, he was an asshole. Now, if you ask me, A and C sound like the same thing, but Bruce Pritchard making it very well known. Ludwig Borga, not a very nice guy. And maybe not cut out for the world of the WWF. We made it another 2 hours and 47 minutes all by my lonesome. I hope you guys were able to enjoy the pay-per-view. I tried my best to make it through some of the downtime. The Hart family versus the Shawn and his Knights match, I thought it was going to be kind of rough, but it was early enough in the show. I was able to really plow right through that with a lot of other tidbits and side notes. And then here, it got a little rough near the end of this Luger and Yokozuna All-Americans Foreign Fanatics matches. There was a lot of plotting, methodical nonsense that really didn't need to be there to stretch the match out in the later half of the match. But luckily for us, the Undertaker tags in and the crowd really comes alive. The match comes alive when the Undertaker gets in there with Ludwig Borga. And even though Undertaker's playing that dead man character, he was still showing more intensity than Lex Luger here in the later stage of this matchup. And of course, just a really fun time throughout the show. We saw the IRS and Razor Ramon feud continue on. We've seen the Macho Man and Crush feud certainly continue on as both guys technically cost one another their matches here on the pay-per-view. We move on. We saw a Smoky Mountain Wrestling tag team title change here in the World Wrestling Federation. We even got to see 4 DOINKS. Believe it or not, I kind of don't want to believe it, but it happened. And I have to feel so bad for the head shrinkers who have been just murdering their opponents for months now. And then they're forced to come out here and take losses in a comedy match by doing things like slipping on a banana peel. But that just about wraps it up. Lex Luger gets that big win over Ludwig Borga right here on pay-per-view as the Undertaker and Yokozuna feud continues to escalate towards the Royal Rumble. And we'll even see Yoko and the Undertaker go at it once again here next year at the Survivor Series. But that'll wrap things up here for this year, the 1993 Survivor Series. I want to thank you so much, guys, for watching along, listening along. I hope I filled you guys in on some fun tidbits, maybe some information you'd never heard of in the past. So hopefully I kept the show informative and fun all the way throughout. Thank you guys so much for being here as part of the Survivor Series and the final pay-per-view here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade as part of the World Wrestling Federation here in 1993.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
All right, guys, and there it was, the WWF Survivor Series 93, the watch-along. I hope you guys enjoyed the show along with me, the nearly 3-hour extravaganza, the Thanksgiving Eve tradition at this point. We got everything from a hot, fun, and surprising opener, everything from the announcement of Mr. Perfect being MIA and replaced by the Macho Man, all the way down to Marty Jannetty and the 1-2-3 Kid, the Underdogs, working out as a tag team. Imagine that. They should be tag team champions. And that actually happens in January of 94, at least for a week or so. And as the show went along, the crowd wasn't really into it, but I really enjoyed the Heavenly Bodies Rock and Roll's tag team title match. Again, a big deal for Jim Cornette and company as they were defending the titles, not just outside of their own promotion, but in the WWF, something that nobody had ever done before. The Harts versus Shawn and his Knights match, well, it's best left forgotten outside of what transpires after the match, and that's the upcoming Bret Hart versus Owen Hart feud. We know Shawn's going to move on with Razor Ramon as well, so everything works out great for everyone involved. Well, maybe besides Shawn's Knights. And boy, did they pull a fast one on us, guys. 4 DOINKS wound up being Men on a Mission and the Bushwhackers. And let me just tell you, Mabel in that clown costume, that's a thing nightmares are made of. And with the Royal Rumble now being the next pay-per-view around the corner, we got some fun back and forth between Yokozuna and The Undertaker as part of the main event here on the pay-per-view. And of course, Lex Luger finally gets to avenge the mouth of Ludwig Borga, knocks him out and gets the pin there to conclude the Survivor Series. And even a special appearance by Santa Claus to end the show. But that'll wrap things up here this week. Remember, next week, our final episode of 1993 in the WWF. It's everything beyond the Survivor Series. That's the final week of November, and all 4 weeks of December. We're going to cover all of that. 5 weeks of WWF TV, news and notes. Next week here on The Grenade. And after that, I'm still debating on it, but possibly a special bonus episode of The Grenade, a Q&A, if you will, where we kind of pull the curtain back, answer your questions, not just about wrestling, but about us. But I'm still working on that. I'm seeing if there's enough interest to put a show out like that to give me a week or two to prepare for the next big project, which is, don't forget, 1987 in the World Wrestling Federation right around the corner. And we're going to kick things off the right way. We're going to set the stage. We're going to talk about the fallout from 1986, everything leading in to 1987. And in the very first few days of the year, it's our very first Saturday night's main event watch-along here on the Grenade. Going to be a fun time once we hit 1987 in the World Wrestling Federation. But first, we must finish 1993. Only 1 month of TV to go as we see the beginnings of the Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon feud. Bret Hart and Owen Hart evolve their storyline. We'll see the debut of women's champion Alundra Blaze. The in-ring debut of Double J Jeff Jarrett. We'll say goodbye to Bobby the Brain Heenan. And more newcomers on the way, including Quang the Ninja and Thurman Sparky Plug. Bob Holly, start your engines. All right, but that's it here for this week. Remember, guys, next week, episode 55 of The Grenade right around the corner. And don't forget our new free prize giveaway, 4 magazines from 4 decades, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. All you have to do to win all 4 magazines is be a follower. Follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Grenade, that's RASSLIN Grenade, or follow and like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade, or follow us on both. Double your chances of winning. I'll leave that up to you. So join me again next week as we close out 1993 here in the World Wrestling Federation. But for now, this is Ray Russell saying, from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and we'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. We'll see you next week. Don't miss it. Be there.
Here in America, Thanksgiving is a traditional family holiday. So from my family to your family, all together now, have a happy Thanksgiving.